It's free to kid. She's my.
Welcome everyone to the meeting of the Council of Elementary and Secondary Education. On this 26th day of May, I hereby call to order a meeting of the Council on Elementary and Secondary Education. Our first item this evening is the acceptance of the agenda.
Sorry, don't touch it. We're all good.
Good? Okay. Our first item this evening is the acceptance of the agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda? Yes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes. Our first order of business is the approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes of the April 28, 2026 meeting of the Council on Elementary and Secondary Education. Please note that Member Bodden must abstain as she was not in attendance. So I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 28th meeting.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes. Next, we will move on to the Commissioner's report, and I will now turn this over to Commissioner Infante Green.
Good evening, Chair DeCenzo and members of the council. So I'd like to begin tonight with a couple of highlights. Some of you are part of what the highlights and some of the progress that we have been seeing across the state. So first, we had our STEAM Expo that took place a couple of weeks ago at PCTA. This year's expo was a huge success. We had Math Matters last year. This one is about STEAM, and we had over 1,000 people register and come in throughout the day. There were workshops for teachers, there were panels, and the exhibition groups, I'll call them, were phenomenal. So we have a young lady that represents us on a Fox show, the Lego Fox show. She was there helping the students. Our state police had the drones. I mean, there was just so many amazing things about where math, science, the arts, all of it comes into play as we do this work. So it was a wonderful, wonderful time. And her granddaughter won a raffle. Not planned, but it did happen. So what was important for us was the turnout. We walked through the events and we could see families and families and families just walking, bringing their students. There were many teachers, even school board members from across the state. It was really exciting. But what was most exciting was to see the kids interacting and understanding, and the families understanding, because it was for families as well. And they didn't want to leave that session. We had to sort of usher everybody out. It was amazing, I have to say. So I think that next year we'll have to exceed that.
If I could just jump in about the event being so engaging, the activities were so engaging for the kids. And my husband and I went and met my son and my granddaughter there. And after about a good 3 hours of my husband being dragged around by the hand and saying, let's go do this, let's go do that with her. And he loved it. But he said, I think we're ready to go. And my son said, I can't go. She will not leave. So that's how she won the raffle. I think she was the last person. We did leave, but they stayed because she was not missing a minute of that. It was really very exciting. And all of the different activities were so engaging. It was something to say, really.
It really was, and it was a very powerful event, and particularly for the families, because they walked away with concrete things that they could do with their kids. It was really nice. So we went from the STEAM Expo. The next Saturday was our food truck roundup. If you haven't been, you're missing the best event ever. I must say that people off the street coming that wanted to come in. It was quite an event, and we had so many people that one of the trucks ran out of food. It was that popular. It was really exciting. Every year it gets harder and harder to pick a winner because their dishes. Some of these food trucks are the best food I've eaten in food truck ever. Like you were there, you could say. I mean, this was pretty. Oh, you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. But what's important is I want everybody to know how the district's remind everyone how the districts got those trucks. Those trucks were given because we had money that we used from our buildings that we have left over, and we gave all the districts, not left over, that wasn't utilized, gave districts these food trucks, and they are learning. It is culinary, it is business, they write business plans, it is about media, it's about nutrition, it is about, you know, hospitality, customer engagement. It's just, it was really amazing. So I'll just tell you who the winners are, because it was really interesting. So Socket won the belt, which is the Governor's Cup was awarded to Cranston. So these are the two places that got these big awards. And I think Charahoe got one for presentation, if I'm not mistaken. So new people, it was really exciting. And what is also exciting about that event is how kind these students are to each other. Even though they're from different schools, they were trying each other's meals, complimenting. And even when we were calling out the winners, they were very supportive of one another. It seems like a really like amazing community. And it didn't even feel like they were competing. They were really supporting each other. So it was nice to see.
Was every community represented?
We have almost, that's not true. We have like, how many? 12 trucks. So it is Central Falls, it is Providence, it is Woonsocket. Charahoe is the newest one that I think we got, right? And then there is East Providence. There is Davies, Pawtucket, Westerly, Newport, one more, I'm missing one more. Coventry, yes. It's pretty, it's a nice representation of the state. It's really, and it gets better every year. Like, you don't know how to top it, but this year, that was really hard. I was upset. I got a smother people. But what is exciting for us is that this brings all of our CTE work in one place. You know, we're a foodie state, so this is really important. Our kids have that opportunity to actually own a business, make money, do the advertising for it, and it is in alignment with our STEAM work. So this is all about math, engineering, technology, all of that, all wrapped into one. And then one of our most exciting ones, so we have partnered with IRFC, the Rhode Island Football Club. So, excuse me, they have been, they've worked with us to have a raffle for the districts that get the best improved attendance every week or the best attendance. And it's been really exciting. June 6th will be family night. Is it family night or student night? Well, they're all going to be able to go there. Schools week by week that have the best attendance in the state and the most improved are part of that raffle, and they will be attending this game on the 6th. It's really exciting. They have been such great partners, and they've been going to the schools, high-fiving everyone, every school that wins. So as we talk about chronic absenteeism in the nation, and you know that we are leaders in that space, right now we're the 5th largest decrease in the nation of chronic absenteeism. So I'd like to remind us of that because I think that that's really important. Aside from the fact that they have adopted our data system in many other states. It's really amazing the work that's been happening at the districts. And for us, working with RIFC was important because we all know that as it gets warm, it's harder and harder to keep everybody in school. So that's why we chose to do it at this time. Because a lot of people were like, at the beginning of the year, I was like, no, because we need to finish strong. This for us is important. And talk about finishing strong. I want to go into another piece of my points, which is recognizing member gains. Your leadership is pretty impressive. Your ability to do hard things. Rhode Island is lucky to have had you in this role. But I took the time and I wrote you a little poem. Don't come. I am not a poet, so let's see what comes out of this. Title of the poem is Upstream. Some people enter a room and carry titles. You carried purpose. You do not choose the easy current, the quiet waters, or the path that everyone agreed. You rode upstream. Steady hands, determined heart. Through resistance, doubt, and noise. And somehow, even in difficult waters, you never lost your grace. You listened when others hurried. You stood firm when others bent. You reminded us that leadership is not just about power, but about service. For every student whose name was never known publicly, or every family who felt heard, or even educators who found encouragement, your fingerprints will remain. The strongest leaders are rarely the loudest. They are the ones who show up again and again with courage, integrity, and compassion. That was you. Retirement is often described as an ending. But for those whose lives have lived, sorry, there's a second typo here. Whose lives have been lifted because of you, it becomes something else entirely. A legacy that keeps moving forward long after the rolling stops. May this next chapter bring you peace without pressure, joy without urgency, and mornings that belong fully to you. And may you always remember the current change because you were willing to row against it. Congratulations. This didn't come in on time, but you're going to get this recognition, this award from Pride and the council, all of us. Just thank you for the work that you've done because you changed lives. And we know Joeva, I'm not going to say your age, but I know that this is not your last chapter.
89.
89. So whatever you do or whatever idea you get, please build it and let us know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I would like to respond just a minute. I'm not going to take all up.
Do you want to respond to the commissioner right now, or do you want to respond to everyone who's here to speak to you after we all speak? So first up, Joeva, is someone who, even with a root canal, tried to get to this meeting to sit next to you for one last time and couldn't do it. So she sent me a message that she wanted to give to you, and this is from our council member, Karen Davis. Joeva, I'm so very sorry to miss your final meeting. I couldn't let this moment pass without sharing how grateful I am for the privilege of working alongside you for the last 9 years. I have learned so much from your wisdom, your compassion, your commitment to students across our state. Your dedication has never waned. You traveled a long distance to attend our meetings. You never allowed age or obstacles to stand in the way of your record-breaking service. This level of commitment is rare and has inspired all of us fortunate enough to serve with you. We step into service hoping to make a difference. Joeva, you did far more than that. You changed lives. Your legacy in the countless children lives on in the countless children, families, and communities which have benefited from your knowledge, advocacy, tenacity, generosity, and caring heart. Because of you, education in our state is stronger and better, and future generations will continue to benefit from the foundation you have helped build. As you close this chapter, I hope you do with peace and pride, knowing you have left an extraordinary mark on our state and on all of us who have had the honor of serving beside you. I will miss you, my friend. Godspeed, Karen. So while you're crying, we're going to just go around the table and start with Mary, so we can just, shower you with love, Joeva.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for your years of service. Thank you for being a strong, independent woman. And you gave me the strong, independent woman pin. I should have worn it tonight for you. Thank you for bringing the voice of students and educators and the voices of educational staff to this table, because it's really important Thank you for bringing the voice of school committee members to this table and for your wisdom that you've brought and the model of service that you've given for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you, the same, but I want to thank you for your voice for the kids. You really stood up for them. I remember that those are always the words that come out of your mouth when you say something. What about the kids? And let's not forget the kids. And I especially am very grateful for you looking out for the children of color and the teachers of color and the administrators of color, because that, to me, I'm here trying to do the same, but you did it with such grace and with such wonderful wisdom. I want to thank you for that and for being a great role model for that.
Oh, my dear friend, we go back away. And I think one of the things I think about is commitment. All of the things, ditto, that have been said, always thinking of the kids, bringing your on the ground expertise from your time as a school committee person, as a guidance counselor, all the things that you brought from serving children, right there front and center. But seriously, the number of years, the amount of time, number of miles driven, the number of times you've crossed that bridge, all in service of this profession, the children, the families, the administrators, the teachers, everyone, and this board. The other piece that's so important is the historical perspective that you have brought, and the many times that you were able to say, and try to follow in those footsteps a little bit, remember when, or we've been there, or we've tried this. And sometimes it's good for us to remember that. But most of all, thank you again for your leadership, your mentorship, and your friendship. You gotta keep going. Well, we'll keep to try. I don't know, 89, I'm not so sure about that. But thank you, Joe Weaver, we love you. Mike.
Okay, so doing the math in my head, it's got to be coming up on 25 years.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, I first-
1985.
Well, no, that I've known you.
Oh,
So I think I've worked with you in several different ways, several
Yeah.
different places, as a school board member, as a state official, representing school boards around the state, and in roles, rooms like this, and committees and so forth, in many different places.
and the
ways and places.
conventions.
Yes, and then those as well. And we've had the opportunity to kind of interact in lots of different ways, wearing lots of different hats. The one thing that I can say about you is that in every one of them, you are good and decent. And you are the same. Everywhere you go, you are the same person. You bring with you the same kindness and the same concern for the work that you do, regardless of where you are. And that is to be the same person everywhere you go is a strength of character that most don't have. So I've had the opportunity to have dinner with you, to have with you and your daughter and my wife. By the way, my wife still asks about you every time I come to one of these meetings. How you're doing, to say hello. You've had the opportunity, you've been for many of us around this table, and for many around the state. I'm going to say the word role model. I sit at this table without having an example like you. And somebody to look up to, somebody to watch, see how it's done. And how to do it well, how to do it right, how to be dedicated. So I just want to say thank you, because up until tonight, I feel like I've had somebody across the table for me when we do this, especially the difficult decisions that have to be made and the hard choices, that has that strength that I look to. And yeah, you're going to leave me alone. I might be a little upset, but I might have to call you.
You got my number.
I do. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of me as a coworker, as a fellow board member, as a friend. And each of those areas, you set a standard, and it is noticed and appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To my fellow counselor, you inspire people with your grace. You have been
You've done it all. You've been in the trenches. You've saved children yourself, and then you went on and created policy that saved children. You created policy for equity, and you are the GOAT of education in my mind. I will never forget when you were on the school committee, when they weren't too sure that a woman could handle Rogers High School. And you went into executive session and you supported me, and we became Vikings together that year. And I will never, ever, ever be able to thank you. Because of you, I got to have the career of my dreams because you were such a wonderful mentor. So I want to say for myself, for the children of Rhode Island, people in this room, for the people around this table, you are the mentor, you are the leader, and you are the friend. And Joeva, I am never, ever, ever going to forget what you have done for me and for many educators around the state. So let's hear it.
No ugly crying. But I want you to know that there's a little Viking right here. Right here. Okay. Once a Viking, always a Viking. That's what they say.
Thank
God bless you.
Yeah. Take the red out.
I know I already have it served, but I'm gonna take another one. Just to say thank you for nothing. For doing really hard at this table. I think focus on kids first. I feel very lucky to have been at this table with someone like you that has the courage to say the hard things.
I don't know if it's courage or really just not knowing any better. But all of the time that I've been in education, I've been on this board except for 2 years since 1985. I've seen a lot. It's been a journey. It's ridiculous that a person could be on a board that long, but I don't think it was a time wasted. Because I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in education. The ugly was never about kids. It's about adults and their hang-ups. And that has been the motivation in my life, is to make life better for kids so that they have a decent future. Everything that I have done as an educator, as a board member, both at the local and the state level, has been about kids. And I'm not sorry about that. I've made life a little uncomfortable for some adults, but too bad. I'm not sorry for that. And I will probably do it on my way out the door. And I'm not sorry about that. I thank you all for tolerating as I got older. I would say a grouchy old woman, but there was a purpose behind that grouchiness, and it was to make life better for kids. That's the whole being, whole reason for my being anywhere at any table. It's about the kids. And as long as people remember that, you can't go wrong. But when you put other stuff in front of the kids, in front of their well-being, in front of their ability to make a life for themselves, there can't be any good coming out of it. So remember that in your decisions, wherever you sit, whether it's at the table, in the classroom, at the union meeting, remember the kids. Put them in the middle of the table when you're making decisions, and you won't regret it. And I don't want to preach, so I'm going to stop right there. I thank you all for everything you've done. It's been a journey. It's a journey I would take again, but I don't know if I'd do it for 41. Thank you so much.
Well, I suppose you think you can leave now, but you can't.
No,
You got one more meeting in there, right? Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We're now moving on to the open forum. To help with the efficiency of the meeting, we strongly encourage individuals interested in providing public comment to email written comments, and today we have received 6 written comments. We also ask if individuals prefer to provide verbal comment to sign up in advance of the meeting, and today we have 4 individuals who signed up to speak. Before I call the 4 people up, I know that there's a group here that didn't understand that there was a 24 hours sign up ahead of time. So I would like to offer you the opportunity to submit something in writing, and we can hold minutes for 24 hours before we post, so we can add them to today's minutes. And then, of course, at the next meeting, if you want to come and sign up, we can make sure that they have the email before they leave, so that we can get on the agenda. I mean, on the open. So I just don't want you to think that we had other people today asked to sign up to speak, and we have already said no to a few. Actually, it was a couple of districts also that wanted to speak. We said no to. So I'm hoping that you can submit something to us and we have to put it in the minutes. Please come up when I call your name. Once the timer starts, you will have 2 minutes to provide your comments. When the time is up, we will allow you to finish your statement. If you have not finished it in the time allotted, you may submit a written statement. Naomi Barrett. Come on up.
It's recorded.
Hello, Council. Good evening. My name is Naomi Barrett. I am a mother of a child in the Providence school system, a multilingual learner, child that is in special education in Providence. I am a community member, and I am also the director of early childhood policy at Parents Leading to Educational Equity. I want to begin by saying the local control matters. Families deserve a school system that is close to the community, responsive to parents, and accountable to students who live in Providence. As we move through this transition, we have to be honest. The students most at risk of being left behind are often the students whose families have to fight the hardest to attend. I myself have had to go through a lot of uphill battles through the special education system, pre-K special education system for my child that has complex healthcare conditions, students with IEPs, 504 plans, multilingual learners, Black and Latino students, students experiencing housing instability, students with mental health needs, students impacted by poverty, trauma, immigration challenges, right? These are the children who need the stronger protections during this transition. This transition must include clear funding obligations from the city, public monitoring of students' learning outcomes, review, and approval of school improvement plans for every school, continued right oversight when enforcement is necessary. We need clear accountability, measures that are public, transparent, easy for families to understand. We need data that is broken down by student group, not just overall averages. families should not be sent in circles between the school district, the city and the state.
Time.
I asked, in order, I asked for these 4 things before I finish: a transparent plan for how the city will meet its funding obligations, public monitoring of students' learning, and that families are included throughout this whole process, clear family-facing process with students not receiving supports or services or communication. And for us to make sure and enforce when students' rights and services or supports are not being met, that we make sure that we are accountable.
Thank you. Aubrey Johnson. In the other room, Aubrey Johnson. Not here. Okay. Melissa Hughes.
Thank you, Chairwoman DeSenza and members of the council. My name is Melissa Hughes. I'm a parent of 2 Providence Public School students in 10th and 12th grade. I submitted some written comments because I knew that I had so much to say that I wouldn't be able to get through all of it in person today, but I just want to highlight that I've served on all sorts of committees, including the school board in 2024 and 2025. And I've had a front row seat from that lens, as well as on the Parent Advisory Council, the District-wide Advisory Council, and the School Building Committee to see the work that's happened in Providence during the state intervention. While I have some grave concerns about the progress continuing right now, that has nothing to do with the PPSD team that is in place. I have nothing but gratitude and appreciation for the team here at RIDE and on the ground of PPSD and all the work they have done. But any progress that we've seen in the district since the intervention was under Commissioner Infante Green's leadership. And the only reason we could make that progress with our amazing Superintendent Montañez was a commitment to a clear vision of what work is most important to improve student outcomes and the ability to focus solely on that student-centered work, unencumbered by competing political interests within City Hall and the school board. There's so much else I could say. I am so deeply disappointed with our local leadership. Our mayor's office, our city council, and our school board are not focused on students. They are focused on political games. They are focused on power struggles. And just this evening, I was rushing to get here coming from our school building committee meeting, where 5 out of 6 projects are delayed. These are projects the city of Providence is managing. This is taxpayer dollars in Providence and across the state of Rhode Island. I have serious concerns moving forward, but me and other parents will keep showing up and we will keep holding folks accountable. And so I ask that you consider the order before you tonight that the commissioner is presenting, and any additional supports or teeth that you can add to that, please do so. Thank you for your time.
Alexis Lamb. Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time tonight. My name is Alexis Lamb. I'm a parent of 2 current PPSD students, and my 3rd will be starting PPSD in the fall. I have served on the Parent Advisory Council for Providence Schools since 2020, as co-chair since 2021. I'm a member of the School Building Committee, and I have been actively involved in my children's PTOs. I was also the co-chair of the Engaged Communities Community Design team that was convened at the beginning of the intervention. So, I'm a proud and engaged PTSD parent, and I'm here tonight to share my concerns about returning the district to local control on July 1st. As Melissa said, there's not enough time in 2 minutes to cover all the things I would like to cover, so I'm going to focus on 2 primary concerns. My first is related to the funding that our district requires, the financial support that our students deserve to get the education that they deserve. As you all know, we've received level funding for many, many years, and the commissioner literally had to take the mayor to court in order to get him to provide the funding that we should have. The school board, I was at the school board meeting last week. They say a lot of wonderful things, and I want to believe them, but I also have seen them support the mayor, and I don't feel confident that I believe they are aligned with the mayor, and I don't feel confident that either party is
is focusing on, as you said, the students. It doesn't feel like it's about the students. Similarly, I think there's a lot of talk about community engagement, but there's a difference between engaging the community and engaging the PPSD community of students and families who are directly impacted by the choices that are made. And I feel like there's a lot of talk, well, we engaged the community, we got feedback. I would be curious how many of those listening sessions, what percentage of the feedback they got was from PPSD parents and PPSD students about the decisions that are affecting them directly. Because I know I hear from a lot of folks in the community, well, we left because of the schools. So I urge you, as Melissa said, to think about the decisions before you, to do whatever you can to try to promote the district and the funding that they deserve and the engagement and involvement of the parents. I agree the PPSD team is fantastic. I have no concerns about them. But I will say, as you said, it's about the kids. And if it's about the kids, you wouldn't need to be taken to court to provide funding. And if it's about the kids, you would want to hear from them and the families. So.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have discussion action items. Board appointments from William and Davies Career and Technical High School, Noel Academy, and the Rhode Island School for the Deaf, and I'll turn this over to students.
Thank you very much, Chair. We have 4 appointments before us this evening. First that we have up is for the chair at Davies Career and Technical Education. The board has nominated Rosemary Costigan to serve as the chair. Since 2017, Rosemary has served on the Davies Board of Trustees when she was first appointed. She's currently serving as the first vice chairman. Most folks know Rosemary well, where she is now currently serving as the 6th president of the Community College of Rhode Island. She's a lifelong Pawtucket resident, first generation college student. Is one of the only person I know who's completed what I call the Rhode Island Triple Crown. She has an associate's degree in nursing from CCRI, a bachelor's of science from Rhode Island College, a master of science and PhD from the University of Rhode Island. So she's got all 3 legs of the Triple Crown. Before coming back to CCRI, she worked in the nursing field and then worked her way up from a faculty member and then onto leadership roles in the chair role, department chair, and ultimately serving as the vice president of academic affairs. For those reasons, we nominate Rosemary to serve as the chair for the Davies Board of Trustees.
Take one at a time. And
Well, I think we'll do the votes after the votes. We'll happy to move on to the second one for Davies. The second nominee for Davies today is for a new member. The nominee is former Representative Lisa Tomaso to serve on the William M. Davies Career and Technical Education Board of Trustees. Lisa is a former parent advocate, school committee member, state representative, and now serves as a senior healthcare policy leader. And interviewing Lisa, her passion for public service and volunteerism shines through. I don't have enough time to be able to list out all of her experiences, but I wanted to call out just a couple in the K-12 space. Lisa served as a literacy volunteer in Coventry for 5 years. She led the PTO. She was on the school improvement team, the capital improvement team, the Coventry Health and Wellness team. She is currently the industry advisory chair for the healthcare programs at Alvarez High School to be able to make sure it's connected to the hospital association. She served on the ambassador design team here at RIDE when we created the strategic plan in 2015. And she also was a member of the RIDE Race at Top steering committee. She's a graduate of the University of Rhode Island. And during her time when she was in the House, she served on several key committees, including health, education, and welfare. And now she works with the Hospital Association of Rhode Island, where she leads public relations, government strategies, and external affairs to be able to help support our hospitals and the healthcare system in Rhode Island. For those reasons, we recommend Lisa to serve on the Davies Board of Trustees. Next nominee we have up is from Skip Noel Leadership Academy. This is the first new nomination we have for Noel. For folks who may not have the background, Noel was previously a charter school, and then during the 2024 session became a state school, which included a provision in statute that allows the council to appoint new board members as we do for the other state schools. So this is the first nominee for Noel, first of many more to come. The nominee is Alana, known as EM, I'll call EM as we go forward, Markowitz. She is a dedicated, long-time career classroom educator and has a deep passion for alternative education with over 2 years of experience supporting students in non-traditional settings. She began her career teaching in Somerville, Massachusetts, before working in New York City, where she taught history and social studies for 14 years in 2 South Bronx schools, serving grades 6 through 12. She then transitioned to City of the School, which is a renowned alternative high school in New York City, known for experiential learning. Since leaving the school, she has since relocated to Providence, Rhode Island, and previously had spent some time doing alternative school work in Boston. EM brings valuable on the ground experience at school, and she's helped connect and done some volunteer work at the school over the last couple of years since she moved to Rhode Island. After spending time visiting the school, she joined the board. She wants to join the board of directors to be able to contribute, and has attended multiple board meetings, which is always a great sign, to be able to draw on her extensive alternative education experience. Her unique lens as a long-time alternative school educator combined with direct classroom insight will help enrich the board and help make sure we have the right perspectives on the board for Noel leadership. Fourth and final nominee that we had today is for Robert Martin. Robert is a nominee for the Rhode Island School for the Deaf. Robert is an advocate for linguistic equity for deaf education and bilingual. He's bilingual in ASL and English. His commitment to deaf education began working in the New Bedford school system, where a longtime substitute position ignited his passion for the field. He subsequently was hired as a linguistic specialist and then began to focus on ASL. He then pivoted and worked in Boston School for the Deaf, where he supported independent living skills and addressed language deprivation for students. Throughout his career, Robert has been a strong advocate for both students and educators. His passion for deaf educators shined through in the interviews, but he really wanted to focus on helping make sure that the teachers at the School for the Deaf are well supported, as being a deaf educator at a school can also oftentimes lead to disproportionate levels of frustration, isolation, and burnout, and high turnover and low morale for teachers. As a former mainstream student who built connections with the deaf communities, Robert brings a unique perspective to the board. For those reasons, we recommend Robert's appointment to the Rhode Island School for the Deaf Board.
So, I'll now take action of the board appointments. Recommendation of the council on elementary and secondary education approves the recommendation of the sitting chair for David and Davies career return. Board of trustees as presented. I have a motion. So moved. Any discussion? Are there any abstentions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes. Recommendation that the council on elementary and secondary education approves the recommendation to also to the William M. Davies Career and Technical Board of Trustees as presented. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes. Recommendation that the council on elementary and secondary education approves the recommendation of Alana E.M. Markowitz to the Sheila C. Skip Noel Academy Board of Trustees as presented. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes. Recommendation of the council on elementary and secondary education approves the recommendation of Robert Martin to the Rhode Island School for the Deaf Board of Trustees as presented. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Are there any abstentions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes. Our next discussion is also, let's speak, ready for excellence.
Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity to join you for a presentation on Ready for Excellence. We are really excited for tonight's presentation. Tonight's presentation marks the next phase in our high school work together. As you guys have had a firsthand seat and helped us shape step by step in this, Rhode Island is reimagining high school. We have taken bold steps over the last 5 years together to adopt readiness-based graduation requirements and make sure that each of our kids are graduating and getting the core experiences as a part of the high school experience to graduate our kids ready. As we've been going forward and kind of at the direction and leadership of the board, we have built out the Let's Get Ready community of practice, where we've had 100% of our high schools statewide participate in tailored and structured supports to help them get ready for the class of 2028. We've been, we tonight are announcing our work to be able to start launching profiles of excellence, which is going to engage our school and district leaders to be able to help up profiles of academic excellence in our schools. We're also going to start a conversation on changing regulations that serve as barriers to academic excellence in schools to be able to make sure we have the right foundational policies here, and also announce the launching of a $1 million statewide challenge to be able to make sure our kids are getting the support that they need. So our students and teachers are rising to the challenge. I think one of the questions we had when we adopted readiness-based graduation requirements is, are our systems ready to be able to help support our kids? And we're excited to announce, I think, a couple of different pieces. We'll go one by one because these are really fun and exciting. I think first is Rhode Island is leading the country in AP growth in our kids. So our kids in Rhode Island, as a percentage of our graduates earning a 3 or higher, we have grown more than any other state in the country because of the great work happening in our classrooms with our teachers. Over the last year, we published an advanced course framework guide to be able to help our schools starting in middle school to build out systems for advanced coursework that help support our kids. We also now, next fall, we will have more than 365 CTE programs. Just to give a sense, when I joined the team at RIDE, we had about 120 programs statewide. Many of our communities did not have those programs taking place. And each day it feels like we're going to a new ribbon cutting, announcing a new and exciting program. And I feel like this is an appropriate one given it's Councilmember Gaines' last meeting, we are reimagining school counseling. Last year, we launched, and I think this was comes from your direction on the subcommittee. So one of the big commitments we made with the community of action was making sure we focus on school counseling. We announced the RAMP 30 by 30 goal to make sure our schools have best in country school counseling programs. Our goal is to have 30 schools by 2030. We had 27 schools step up and apply to get grant funding this year that we are actively supporting. We're making a big step forward. They are. We got some folks on there, and we will make sure in your legacy we follow up with everybody there.
And they're actually very engaged. This is
Good
really,
counsel as well.
yes, it's been really heartwarming to see.
We have, over the last 10 years, increased dual and concurrent enrollment by more than 200% in our schools. So that's kids taking college level courses that they can walk away with and lower the cost of college. We have partnered with Khan Academy in 100% of our high schools statewide are leveraging Khan Academy for supports. That's a partnership we developed, and it's at no cost to our schools and districts. We have provided to further advance school counseling. We built out the Commissioners Counselors Initiative, and we have about 70 Commissioners Counselors statewide that we are paying to go through training to be able to make sure our teachers have access to our counselors have access to cutting edge data and resources to support students. And last is all of our kids statewide are now graduating with proficient in civics and financial literacy. We are making great progress. Things are moving forward quickly, and it's been exciting to see how much we've done in such a short period of time. We are doing a tremendous amount of work to support our schools and districts. We have a great and amazing team here at RIDE. I think most folks know Mike Hoban. Mike Hoban is principal extraordinaire. He's in one of the overflow rooms right now, but he has been working all of his connections and making sure we're supporting our school and district leaders. And I'm going to call out Olivia Smith, who's helped support this, but we are out there in schools on a daily basis, making sure folks are getting what they need to be able to be successful. We started that in August 2023 when we launched the Let's Get Ready Community of Practice. And we brought together schools to help them create an action plan of what they needed to do to be ready for the class of 2028. Again, folks have done great and amazing work. We then published 14 guidance documents. What we did there, just to be very clear, these are not very long documents, but it breaks down each of the different changes that we've made together. So there's one on math, there's one on science, there's one on work-based learning. But we really wanted to break it down to be able to make sure there was a clear place for educators to go to be able to get that information. Later this year, we're going to be putting it into a high school planning guidebook, which is something we will publish every year, update every year, to be able to make sure there's one place for high school principals, high school leaders to be able to turn to get state of current information on what needs to happen in high school. We published the school framework for comprehensive school counseling. The last time that was updated, I think, was about 2008. That had not been updated in 17 years. We have updated that to be able to make sure schools are focused on school counseling programs, not just how many positions they have. We need to make sure the functions are happening, and we try to give a roadmap to our leaders to be able to make sure that's happening. And again, we continue to provide coaching supports on a regular basis. We got a new request earlier today to go out and help support our schools. One piece we're also really excited about, and this came out in March, I think most of us will recognize the big old binder that they got in the March meeting. But we were really excited where we were recognized by the XQ Institute as having the strongest high school policies in the country. This is a direct result of the leadership that has come forward at this table. I think most of us remember when we started the conversation on the graduation requirements a couple of years ago, we had one of the lowest rigor diplomas in the country. There was no connection to college and career. We are now being called out as a national model for connecting our graduation requirements to the college admissions requirements. And that is now a recommendation for folks across the country. And again, that is a conversation that started here in Rhode Island. And then also we were called out as a model state for how we engage the community in developing these regulations. Like, it wasn't just our voices, it was the voices of our students, our parents, and our educators that helped us shape where we go. Again, lots more great info in here. I'd encourage folks to read through it. I'm also happy to lend it out to anybody who wants it. The adoption of the requirements has set a new baseline for what's happening in our high schools. And again, when you speak to students, teachers, parents, you're hearing that shine through. As we're going forward, though, we're making tremendous amounts of progress. And each time we step forward, our kids are doing great work. Our teachers are leading amazing work. And our kids are ready to go beyond the baseline of just what's required for a diploma. They are truly ready for academic excellence. This next phase of this work is about how do we truly set the bar for excellence in our schools, not just the minimum requirements. And we're really excited to start that work over the next couple months. So what is Ready for Excellence? There's kind of three key parts to the initiative that we're going to be leading and getting in motion as we go forward. The first is about creating profiles of excellence. We as a state have shied away from creating profiles of a graduate. Many states have created that. I think we felt like that wouldn't add much to the conversation. Most of our schools and districts have that required for accreditation. We're going to be proposing some steps there to create profiles of academic excellence for our schools. The second is we think we have a series of policy changes that we can make here at RIDE that will help advance the student learning in our schools. And so we're going to talk through a couple of those in a minute. And the last piece we're going to be launching in the fall is in partnership with the XQ Institute. We have $1 million set aside in our partnership to be able to help support our schools who are willing to adopt profiles of excellence for 100% of their students. Those schools that are ready to step forward and make sure for all of their students, regardless of their background, that they will graduate high school with a profile of excellence.
But Steve, let me just add, XQ has been incredibly supportive of our work. They use this as a model all the time, but they have been, anytime we've asked for something, they have gone above and beyond. We have quite a few partners that are part of this slide, because we have the College Board as well with the con, but we also, I think the counselors too.
Yep, College Board as well, yep.
College Board is supporting us with the work of the councils. And that's important because as people start talking about our work, more people want to help participate and get to the finish line. It's pretty impressive. But sorry, anyone.
Sure. So profiles of excellence. The goal here is for us to come together as a state and create a series of profiles, what academic excellence looks like in our school. I think if we were to poll everybody in this room, we all recognize there is not one path to excellence in our schools. And what we want to do here is to lay out a series of different paths and different experiences that kids can have that will graduate them ready for excellence, both for college and career success. Some of the things we've talked about as a team, and I think we'll be talking about with the field as we start to develop this, is making sure that we have our schools and systems focused on students earning high school credits in middle school. One thing that has showed up loud and clear from us over the last 4 years is that we need to get much more intentional about connecting what happens in middle school to high school. It's been really exciting to see that progress through the community of practice, where we actually have folks bringing together their middle school teams and our high school teams for cross-curricular planning for the first time. Second is we want to get really clear about trying to make sure we sync up these profiles to things like advanced placement, dual enrollment, CTE, different credentials to be able to make sure that our kids are graduating ready. But also we want to make sure that that's happening for the paths that kids want to go on, right? Earning an industry credential in a field you don't want to go in after graduation, not particularly helpful if you know what you want to do. And so we want to make sure that we're taking the advising work that we've been supporting in the counseling space and make sure our kids are getting those skills and experiences. And then last, we've been doing a lot of work in the durable skills space. We've been working with the Carnegie Foundation and ETS on some new, the Skills for the Future partnership to really try to come up with a way to credential in a way that it's universally recognized when our kids are developing those durable skills. So that'd be things like communication, collaboration, perseverance, things like that everybody recognizes our kids need to be truly ready for excellence, but is often really hard to communicate the readiness of our kids. The next piece is a set of policy shifts. And these are things I think we've started conversations. These are not the only things. We're willing to take this in any way that helps advance academic excellence. But we have a series of shifts that I think we'd like to discuss with you all as we go forward. I think the first one that we really locked in on after doing a survey of our school counselors was we asked school counselors how students get identified for advanced classes. Folks said it is largely parent advocacy and teacher recommendation. Schools and districts statewide are not consistently using data to identify kids for advanced classes, specifically math. I think there's some conversations we want to have there about how can we be more intentional, more deliberate about doing that, and learn from different statewide models that have been able to use some of these strategies to increase student performance statewide. We also want to make sure that we're clear about accelerating student learning. We have some really gifted, really amazing kids statewide who are ready to graduate high school early. They're ready to take classes beyond what their high school offers, and it's not clear for them what to do. We want to make sure that that's clear, more intentional, more deliberate for our kids. So when we do have truly academically excellent kids, that we have a system that supports that and grows that. We also are going to propose that students take some form of CTE as a graduation requirement. We believe CTE has been an amazing thing for our kids statewide. And we want to have a conversation about having CTE, whether it be a class, whether it be earning a series of credentials, whether it be completing work-based learning, as a core requirement of our kids. And just to give a sense, statewide right now, for kids who take CTE is a 94% graduation rate statewide. Our statewide rate has been about 84, 85%. So our kids in CTE are doing amazing. They're more engaged in school. Let's bring more of that to more of our kids. And then we've heard, I think, from the council at our meetings, and I think in other audiences, is that there is a lot of work that we need to do to get more clarity to parents on CTE enrollment and dual enrollment application process. So we want to do some work here to be able to make sure there's consistency and clarity on applications, application timelines, and also start to collect data on those pieces so we can bring that back to you and make sure everybody's informed. And the last piece is we want to make sure that every school is planning proactively and making sure our kids are graduating with a post-secondary credential of value that graduates them ready to accomplish their goals. As we go forward, I think as we try to do consistently with this work, we are not saying that these are the only set of solutions. I think we want this to be the start of the conversation. And we're going to start to engage our school and district leaders this summer to be able to get feedback on these proposals and ideally start to flesh them out and come out with something a little bit clearer that helps us accomplish those goals. Why do we think this is the right time? Is as we go forward, and I think as we're starting to see in a lot of our data, is the foundation is set. I think with the work on the graduation requirements, we really have set a firm foundation for our schools to be able to support our students, and folks are rising to the challenge. And so as we go forward, we want to make sure that we're helping push those pieces. And again, trying to give folks the best tools, the best resources to help our kids reach their full potential in our system. Thank you very much for the time this evening. Very eager to get your feedback and
I just want to add one thing that's important. I think when people hear CTE, I don't think they have a real grasp of all the CTE programs that are happening throughout the state. I think one of the things that was pretty clear when we say that we want CTE for all kids, I think it's really important because the things that they are learning. I have to tell you, I just saw a drone-a-thon in Lincoln, where Westerly and Lincoln were flying these drones against each other. And what was interesting about it is if you start thinking about that is science, that's engineering, that's math, that, you know, and to actually navigate a drone, a real one, you need a license, airspace, and all this kind of stuff. But I share that because that doesn't mean that you want to fly drones for a living. What we saw in Lincoln and Westerly is that they actually built their drone, but they're 3D printed. So there's engineering happening there. Lincoln didn't have a machine, so they sent the specs to Westerly, and Westerly built it for them and their machine, and then actually put it in an envelope and mailed it back, different versions, because that's what engineers do. You don't get it the first time. And they want the kids not to get it the first time so they can adjust and kind of learn. But anyone can benefit from that because it is really about really tackling a problem. It was really exciting to see. And to have Westerly and Lincoln working together, two very different parts of the state, it's pretty amazing. Thank you, Steve. Next discussion item on the agenda is discuss the necessity of school construction approvals, and I'm going to turn this over to Mario.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council. Here today to discuss the annual celebration known as the necessity of school construction. We are in the midst of a construction boom or a renaissance here in Rhode Island. Now, like I was starting with some of the highlights. By 2030, 1-6 schools in Rhode Island will be new or like new, a feat that is unmatched nationally. It's really exciting what's happening here. We have projects happening right now in Woonsocket, down to Westerly, in Newport, in Middletown, like it's happening everywhere in our state. Since 2018, $5.5 billion has been approved. If you recall, before that, we were in a moratorium. There were no projects being approved, so we're really excited about that. Building on what the commissioner and Steve were saying with CTE, just to highlight the governor's FY27 budget includes a $50 million bond for career and tech education. Our original request was for $150 million to help projects throughout the state as well as Davies. We would view this as like the first phase of getting there. Just some quick highlights in schools that have opened this year. Rogers High School, an amazing building that opened earlier this fall. The most recent one was the Central Falls High School, which opened in early March. Pleased to report they're in the process now of demolishing their old high school because they're building a pre-K dual language school on that site. So they're going to get 2 new buildings in that district in a place where it was desperately needed. You can see we have 5 schools that are on track to open this August, and then another dozen that are scheduled to open in 2027. So this momentum is continuing. Just very quickly, just some highlights. Martin Middle School, which opened in East Providence. For those of you who've been to that building in the past, you actually get to walk through open classrooms, 3 of them to get to the 4th one. It was really not a desirable place to learn. That is no longer the case in East Providence. This matches now their amazing high school, which opened up in 2021. South Kingstown, again, replacing a 75-year-old building in South County. This is going to be a tremendous project when it opens. They had their steel topping ceremony a few weeks ago. The Middletown Junior Senior High School. This one's actually very exciting because they are purposely building a middle school, high school to give access to CTE programs beginning in 6th grade. They're making that connection really to start early so that by the time they get to high school, they have 3 years of experience before they get there. So we're hoping that others will continue this model starting early. Again, there's a tremendous value in there, and Middletown has made a purposeful decision to take advantage of that. And then Woonsocket, we have the first new building in Woonsocket in a long time. This replaces 3 buildings that are each over 70 years old that look every day their age. This will be a tremendous project for them. This opens up August of 2007. We're really excited for this project. Before us today, we have 3 LEAs that completed the process of the necessity of school construction. The first is Excel Academy. The exciting piece of this one is that Johnson and Wales, the university with declining enrollments, is actually going to sell them a building so that high school students can use it. As opposed to finding somewhere else and spending money building something from the ground up, they're able to take a surplus building from a university that already was used for teaching and learning, make some modifications, obviously, to account for a high school, and then they're able to move it in a cost-effective manner rather than having another vacant building in downtown that immediately is populated with students. So that's a great one. We're really excited to see that partnership with them. Exeter, West Greenwich is mostly health and safety projects throughout their district, with the exception of expanding their culinary program, which they have just recently been approved. They want to make that space more desirable, and then adding some improvements to the gym. And then in Portsmouth, the majority of the approval are middle school improvements. That middle school was built in 1970. They have done very little work. So I think it's like 25 million of the 40 is for that. The rest are for mechanical systems and other upgrades throughout the district. Any questions on any of you?
Mario, who's the ownership of the Excel Academy School? Is it a charter management organization? Is it locally owned?
They're a larger network.
Right, so it's the larger network and their charter management organization or whomever is the actual owner.
Is the owner, and then I think we brought this up last time, that if something were to happen to
Yes.
these entities, there's protections and provisions in state law that any housing aid that is paid towards this, if something were to happen,
Yes,
the state puts a lien on it and we get its resources back.
that's what I thought. You told us. Okay, it was the ownership I was questioning. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Mario also is available to you if you ever want, if there's anything on there that you'd like to go see, Mario will set it up for you to visit. It really is bringing so much hope to districts to these projects and have just really taken off. So you say the last 10 years?
Yeah, even more recent, maybe it's 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. That's really,
It's been amazing.
it's really a celebration of giving teachers and students optimal environment. It's just great. Thank you very much.
Is Joe still on board?
Yes, for 1 more year, and then he's going to retire in 2027.
I know he's moving to Portsmouth. You guys can go to the beach together. The next discussion item on the agenda is school redesign updates. I'll turn this over to Deputy Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members of the council. You're going to hear a presentation this evening from Director of the Office of School and District Improvement, Kristen Danusis, and Chief of Innovation, Data, and Strategy, and a bunch of other things. He is a pro at everything, Brian Darrow. The presentation this evening is going to focus on just sort of regular updates on progress for our schools that are in redesign, particularly in Providence and Charahoe. And we'll start to preview for the June 2026 presentation to the council about the 2 upcoming redesign applications that will be before the council for approval at Slater Middle School and Central High School. You'll remember that the Slater Middle School presentation was up for consideration last year. They withdrew that application and have been working hard at resubmission, and it is in much better space. And I think the team will give you an update both on progress there and also around the memorandum of agreement between the district and Ryan.
As was stated, the purpose of today's meeting is really twofold. The last time I was here, the council asked for updates after redesign plans got approved. So the first purpose is to provide you with said update. And the second, as Deputy Commissioner mentioned, is to preview what's to come in June. So just as a reminder, there'll be no votes taken this evening. It's just the update and preview of what's to come. You are already familiar with our redesign process. The high-level takeaways from today's presentation are that our redesign process is something that is federally required after a school has failed to exit CSI status for 4 consecutive years. We currently have 6 redesigned schools, 5 in Providence and 1 in Charahoe. All of these schools have made we have some clear early indicators of progress that I'm going to share with you later. And then again, as a preview, we will have 2 additional redesign applications at the June council meeting, 1 for Central High School and 1 for Slater Middle School. And as stated, while Slater's redesign application is much stronger than it was previously, we do still have some pretty significant concerns about Pawtucket's ability to create systems to support their redesign efforts and their continuous improvement efforts. As stated, we did establish an MOU with Pawtucket last year that held accountable for making specific adjustments and improvements at both the district level and at Slater so that they were better poised when creating the redesign application for this upcoming year. Some of those conditions have been met, some have not yet been met. Just as a brief recap, you've seen this slide before, you've seen these models before. As stated, we have a very rigorous redesign process that our schools are required to go through if they have not exited CSI status within, as I said, 4 years. What I want to point out is within these redesign models that are up there, all of our redesign schools thus far have selected the LEA proposed redesign model. You as a council always have the ability to not approve a plan, or if a plan is not approved, to go a more rigorous route, such as something up there like the restart option, where an educational management company or charter company would come in to close the school and then reopen it under that management. That's always your right. We have not done that thus far, but just as a reminder, that is an option as well. What you have in this table is the current portfolio of our redesigned schools. As I've stated, the majority of our schools currently in redesign are in Providence. The 5 of them are listed up there. This school year, at the close of this school year, will mark the close of their second implementation year. We have Charahoe with CALA, or the Charahoe Alternative Learning Center, whose plan was approved last year. This is currently their planning year with an implementation year next year. And as I've noted, there's 2 schools, one in Pawtucket and one in Providence, who will be submitting redesign applications in June. When we think about the progress that Providence has made, a lot of these metrics are similar to the ones that were presented to the council at the last council meeting. But I wanted to dig in a little bit specific to the redesigned schools. So across the board, we've seen some pretty significant improvements with chronic absenteeism rates, with ELA proficiency specific to progress on state assessments. And I thought this was especially important to call out the significant gains that have been made in CTE enrollment. So the number of students enrolled in CTE programs and the number of students who have taken AP classes, especially as you can remember, all of the Providence redesign applications focused on those CTE enhancements and improving those opportunities for students. So a lot of good work happening, still a lot of work to go in those schools. And I think at the core of all of that, and this is a metric we did not share last time, is the intentional efforts that have been put in to strengthen Tier 1 instruction across all of our schools. We know that in order to fundamentally redesign a school, the instruction that happens every day in classroom with kids needs to also be fundamentally different. I wanted to highlight a couple of the positive stories from the individual schools within Providence. As I mentioned, CTE is really at the core of the redesign applications across Providence. And so I won't read these kind of line by line, but I do want to give you a really strong example. At JSAC High School, for instance, they now have they're only one of only 2 schools in the entire state that has a dental pathway, which is pretty exciting and awesome opportunity for kids. And they've recently received a $437,000 grant, CTE for All grant, to have the very first medical imaging CTE program in all of Rhode Island. Pretty exciting stuff. As we transition into CALA at Charahoe, I mentioned they're technically in their planning year this year. I'm happy to report that they took the guidance from this council and RIDE to heart and really spent this planning year digging into how they can improve instruction in their classrooms and improve that Tier 1 instruction. So just a couple examples I want to highlight. They have spent a lot of time providing professional learning and coaching to their teachers, to their building leaders. They have an established walkthrough system in place now where teachers are getting feedback and coaching specifically to their instruction. And so as they move into their implementation year next year, we feel strongly that they have met the conditions outlined in their corrective action plan that was part of the conditions for their approval last year. As we move into Pawtucket and an update specifically on Slater's progress, we have much more concern. As I mentioned, RIDE and Pawtucket entered into an MOA last year, so the district could use this year to really set up the conditions necessary for school redesign and improvement. And while some progress has been made, and Slater's application in particular is significantly stronger than it has been previously, there are several conditions within the MOA that are off track. For example, one of the conditions was that Slater educators would receive an additional 50 to 75 hours of professional development this school year. To date, only 12 hours by the end of this school year will have been conducted. And I think Consequently, a lot of the professional learning that was required will be done over the summer with teachers.
Reason have they given you for not providing the professional development that is prescribed?
I think there's a lot of factors that have played into that. I think one big one was that they negotiated terms with their union around those professional learning hours that didn't get settled until March. And then it took a while, correct. And then it took a while going back and forth with what they had proposed for professional learning to what the actual intent was of the professional learning for their educators there. So that took some back and forth with the RIDE team before we could confidently say, yes, this is a PL plan that will improve tier 1 instruction.
We have a committee at the school level, teachers who are planning the professional development.
There are some educators that have participated in that process as well. I don't know how large that committee is.
Thank you.
So my understanding is they've had some leadership changes in the district at both the district level and at the school level. Am I correct? I don't know specifically about Slater.
They have a new principal.
Yeah, I thought so. So I'm wondering whether or not, again, not to make any excuses, I'm not sure when those folks stepped into their positions. It's one of the concerns that I had. I know that the superintendent is new, but he was interim and then not officially named until somewhere at the beginning of the year, middle of the year. So I don't know. I'm just wondering when did the leadership change happen at the middle school at Slater?
They started off with an interim as well. So it was earlier on in the school year, but it was not at the start of the school year. And she definitely took some time, I think, kind of assessing.
So leadership
was going on there as well.
It's unfortunate about those hours, hoping they can. I'm sorry, one last follow-up. Was it the interim? I know the superintendent was interim and then was named as the superintendent. Same thing with the principal? Is it the same person?
No, they had somebody who filled in until they could bring on somebody new. It is not the same.
Thank you.
Finally, just
Can I ask a question? Sure. So what's the consequence of it? I mean, it seems like you're all kind of sitting there not saying anything, but I'd like to know what's the consequence. Yeah.
I think
And
on
we're
our,
looking at 3 pages of well done, well done, well done, and now we have a page where it's not well done. And I would like to know what RIDE's position is here with what is there a remedial plan for them? Is there a sanction for them? Is this something that is taken to the superintendent's office, or to the commissioner's office? I might want to put that on the table so that if they're not hearing it in the district, maybe they'll hear it tonight. So
I think a few things come to mind. One, we are constantly meeting with the superintendent and his team. We have a review process where we review all the milestones in their redesign plan on a quarterly basis in a formal structured way. And after every single meeting, we document where they are on track, where they are off track. So the superintendent and his team is well aware of the areas where they're off track. We've consistently tried to work with them to provide them support, guidance, and direction on what they need to do to be on track. Ultimately, too, this MOA was about Slater's redesign application. That's why it was formed, because last year they were supposed to submit an application. It wasn't at the quality level where it needed to be. So we executed this MOA to provide them some additional time. That application is currently under review, and that's what we plan to bring to you in September. Similar to other June, and other application processes, what the actual review and recommendation is both informed by the application, but also informed by the contextual factors at play. So as we review the MOA and see where they're on track or off track, that is all evidence that will ultimately inform the recommendation we bring to you next month about the status of their application and how that application should be implemented and supported by the central office team.
So this information that you're giving us, they've already received that they're not on track, it's been documented.
Absolutely.
It's been- So this is no surprise.
So just as an example, since you list here, and I went back to check it, I thought, well, maybe, okay, it's a plan, but it says for this current school year, there were supposed to be 50 to 75 additional hours. So here we are, mid-May, school ending in a month. And so kind of a follow-up to what Chair is asking. So what happens? Is it just that end of the year comes, they didn't do it? Everything I hear about resource problems and so forth, that might be the next excuse why they can't get it done in the summer. What do we do to make sure that that's not X number of hours that have been lost? And now PD that should, you know what I mean? We're just losing ground all around.
I guess for me.
That worries me.
I worry about you, like, how do you manage that? Like, if they're just not doing it, what is their options to?
Well, they're gonna have to do it. Like, we're not saying you're off the book. I think at no point have we said that. They have to figure this out. And every time we go to them with where they are, they have to build a plan. They have to get there. It's not oh, well, we didn't do it, it's not gonna happen. So that's where we are with them, but they are telling us how it's going to take place.
You mentioned probably happening this summer. Why does that have to be probably?
I have, yeah.
It's kind of late for a summer plan. That's, I mean, that would be my first thing in my head. It's already, it's almost June and it's, by the way, it's summer.
Professional development, it's too late.
Well, not too late. Well, people need to know, right?
They have, and they are in the process of, they have a plan, they have a plan that they have presented for their summer PD hours that their educators are aware of. The reason I said probably is because I think that there's still an opportunity to make sure that it is the right plan, and the educators also need to commit to going, and that is out of our control. So I think there is that piece of it as well. And I think when we present the application next month for approval, one of the options is to approve with conditions. There are, I think, certain routes that we take.
So you have a plan moving forward, but the other thing is that you say that are the teachers going to go? Do they have an option not to go? Is it optional?
Shouldn't be.
I'm just asking, since I'm not understanding if it's not like takeover, right? So this is different.
No.
Correct.
Right.
This is,
It's not like transformation. Is this transformation?
this is
So I would
transformation.
think it would be mandatory now.
So the MOA states that this is mandatory, that they are required, all educators are required to conduct 50 to 75 professional learning hours. I think, and I would give kudos to Kristen and her team. We have been going back and forth with the superintendent and his team, consistently refine what the plan should be. Because when we first received it, it was not focused on improving Tier 1 instruction. So that's a huge area we're trying to work with them, make sure it's focused on improving Tier 1 instruction. This is something we're going to continue to monitor, and this is something that we'll follow up with you on and inform our recommendation. We've kept both the superintendent and his team involved. We've copied the school board. We've offered to also come and present at a Pawtucket school board meeting. This is something that we are actively monitoring on and focusing on, but to your point, Chair, there's a difference between the levers that we can to require versus enforce, and that is, again, something that we're monitoring and trying to enforce. Correct.
That's quite, opportunity is a word that I was just thinking about as well, because clearly the question is it mandatory? Do teachers have to attend? Are they attending, et cetera? But I'm hoping that part of this is the district required to provide that professional development? Because that's a question that I would be asking. You know, we can't go if there is not the opportunity to attend. And so obviously there are multiple pieces of that. Is it the right professional development? And I think that you're weighing in on that, and I wholeheartedly endorse that. But secondly, we're talking about multiple opportunities that must have been missed. That opportunities may or may not have been, since I don't know the situation. I'm hoping when you report back to us that you can answer that question. I'd really like the administration to be able to provide information about what they presented, didn't present, and so forth, because without that, now we are left till the summer, and we don't want to cast aspersions on people that have not had other opportunities and now all of a sudden we're saying, well, guess what? Your school district didn't provide it during the school year, and now we're telling you that you gotta do something. That's my concern. There's a responsibility on the district part as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to see a timeline, you know, them to you at the next meeting. You know, a timeline to show us what.
And who's providing, I mean, my understanding is that they're changing.
It's, we've been pushing and supporting at the same time, and we will have all that information at the next week. Put that all together and, yeah.
It's a tough position for you to be in, I appreciate that, but I also know that. I don't know how to. Like, failure's not an option, right? That's not on the menu, right? So we.
I just want to add one, my team is split up so that each of my transformation specialists supports a district. And the person who has been assigned to support Pawtucket, I can't even begin to imagine the countless hours that she has spent side by side with principals, walking buildings, helping design their plans, helping. So it has been an inordinate amount of support that has been provided, and we will continue to do that because we believe and know it is the right thing to do for kids in Pawtucket. And definitely will provide you with those requested updates. The last thing I just want to quickly highlight, and again, this is not new information for you, just a reminder that our redesign application process is very rigorous. It goes through multiple rounds where we provide support and an external vendor provides the review. And we have 2 schools that have just finished up that process. They're waiting right now for their final review from our vendor, and the Central High School and Slater Middle School applications will be coming to you in June for approval.
Thank you. Next discussion item this evening. Commission's recommendation on the turnaround action of the Providence Public School District, pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 5.1 and the regulations governing intervention and support for failing schools 200 RICR 200506. I will turn this over to the Commissioner Infante Green and Deputy Commissioner Drew Evans.
Okay, so as we get started, we all know what this conversation is about today. We have been in Providence for 6.5 years now. If you recall, we had these listening sessions that many of you were a part of, got an opportunity to hear. That's where all this started. And thanks to the work of this council, we're in a very different place, and we're going to talk about that. But I want us to go back to 2019. So pre-intervention, if we can go back to 2019, we had the Johns Hopkins report. We had Johns Hopkins specialists come and work with community members, some that are up here, some that were part of this process, and label Providence one of the worst districts in the nation. That was the title. And I want us to think back at the things that were happening in the district at that time. Those of you that are here from the district will remember. And Javier, you have a vantage point because you were principal and then the superintendent as the intervention moved forward. So if we go into 2019, we remember where the kids were academically, 90% non-proficiency in math, 86 in reading. But I think what's extremely important for us to remember were the conditions that the district was in. There was no common curriculum. There was a lot of things that were problematic for us. And one of the most important things, as we started talking about, was the governance model that existed in the district. And the challenge that we had as we were moving these districts forward, we had competing authority, the mayor, the superintendent, the school board, the union, that there was a paralysis of them being able to work together and do what was necessary for the kids. We heard it from every angle. Then there was the buildings. As we were having these community meetings, they were being held in places that kids should not be in. There was one school that there was a net that was keeping the bats from flying down. There was another school that it was like, there was plaster falling on us as we were in the meetings. There was another meeting that we held at a school where the librarian told us, you know, we put a bucket here because when it rains, we catch the rain. So that came across clearly in the Johns Hopkins report and in all our measures. And then there was the culture and safety, unchecked safety crisis, toxic working culture, and systemic and student teacher absenteeism. That's what we found as we came in. These were barriers for the district to be able to move forward. And we're going to address some of those as we talk about the district going back, because this is not what it could go back to. This is not what is there right now. And I want to, you know, the competing authority is really important for me because as we start thinking about the district going back to local control, one of the most important things that we did was take care of that. There was this idea that everybody was running the district, but the district became an HR place, a hiring session for the community. You did somebody a favor, you got a job at PPS. There was really no ownership of, and expectations of everyone involved. It is very problematic to have so many hands in the kitchen as you do this work. So we tackled some of that in ways that, if many of you recall, we sat there, we cried. Parents pointed out to the things that were broken in the system. And if you look back, one of the things that was really impactful, and I have this little note in my house framed, where parents said, don't disappoint us, don't walk away from our kids. Put her phone number there. And we have not done that. We have gone above and beyond. We heard from parents that the water coming out of the bubblers were brown. That was the first thing we took care of. When we came into walking into this situation, we heard not just the bubbler, the conditions of the building, mice all over the place. Just, you guys have seen the picture. But I think that it's important that we understand that we are not there anymore. When you walk in and there was 5, 6, 7 different curriculums across the district, sometimes even in the same building, that is not the case. There is an evaluation system. There's all these things that have been put in place where the principal has been given more autonomy. Principal can now hire without having to get consent from other parties. They work in a group. That was really important. I think, you know, we now have parent-teacher conference. I know that we talked about lofty things, but if you don't have the basic that other districts have nationwide, you can't even talk about those lofty things. So when we sat at the table, I will say that was shocking to everyone. Not everything needs to be negotiated and talked about. There's certain things that just need to be present. And we took that on. And we've gotten to a place that we feel very comfortable. I think the parties involved, we have learned to work together in a way that has impacted the outcomes for students. And that's really important for us. It was a rocky start, as you recall. Some things make you unpopular. I don't care where you are, school closures. Thank you to all of you for staying strong on that. Steve presented earlier today about the first medical imaging program. That's where we closed 360. Jay said. That was a tough conversation. You guys remember downstairs, some people were standing on tables because this makes people irrational. It is a very difficult conversation that we've had to, a journey that we've embarked on. The parents in Providence have stepped up from day one and have been part of the solution. And I thank them publicly because this work cannot be done without it being in partnership. And that's why I wanted to bring this conversation that we're going to have today. We started this intervention with the community, hand in hand. We built a plan with the community. This was not us just wanting to go in. We understood where the district was, but we did that with the community every single step of the way. And that was important to us because we didn't want the community to feel that this was being done to them, but we were doing this for them. That's what makes this intervention different than others across the nation. So for us, the investment in the kids and the teachers, because I want everyone to remember, we are the only district that has gotten out of a DOJ consent decree for our multilingual learners in the nation. Let's be clear. Sorry, Drew, but Boston is still in that place.
That's true. I'm in Providence now, so.
Team proud. But you know, I think that that's important because that means that every single teacher in the district was trained for workshop, that we invested money, we repurposed dollars, we thought about the system differently. I think that that was really important. In the past, the city used to scoop up any money that wasn't spent. That is not the case. We cannot allow that to happen. The school has to have that money. You know, when boilers break and things happen, that money is necessary. But just the fact that it was scooped away, that they have been level funded for so many years, this has been quite a journey, guys. And we have been on it together, and it has not been easy. It's not been easy. There have been many late nights, battles that we didn't think we had to fight that we did. Like our performance-based contract. We all knew what the conditions of the building were. And when we went to performance-based contract, for everybody's edification on that, if you don't work, you don't get paid. You don't just get a contract. If the buildings are dirty, you don't get paid. And if you remember the infamous moderately dingy conversation, that is not the case. That is not what the district is paying for. We're not paying for moderately dingy classrooms and schools. That was really important for us to tackle what the community was saying was really important. What was the source of this system that was so broken? And we tried to address every single, I shouldn't say we tried, we've addressed every single one of them. And the district is in a place that they have never been before. And I have to thank the PPSD team because that has been hard work, very hard work. But I want to thank the team here at RIDE, who has been involved in multiple meetings, multiple conversations for every single piece of the work that has taken place. So we're going to talk a little bit about where we are right now, our current state. In your packets, you have the Johns Hopkins report, just to remind everybody how bad things are. Because we sort of forget, but this report is the second one. Because there was a 1999 report as well. This dysfunction had been going on for a long time. And I want everyone to understand how difficult it is to revamp HR and really have a department that really looks at high quality, but also that doesn't have to get printouts of timesheets, because that was what was happening in 2019. They were actually printing timesheets and driving them to the district at the end of the day. And if it didn't get there on time, teachers didn't get paid for those extra hours, the work that they were doing. So those things are real. So it is from school building to HR to teaching and learning. We've left no stone unturned as we do this work. Drew is going to lead us into the other part as we talk about where we are. Because a lot of this work was on the backs of everyone, all the parents that are here, but also the RIDE staff and the PPSD staff.
Thank you, Commissioner. If I might just take a moment of privilege and just ask the superintendent just to say some words. I think it was important to him to be here this evening just to thank the council. I also want to acknowledge members of his team who are here, Dr. Paul Dillon, Zach Scott, Deputy Superintendent of Academics and Operations respectfully, and also Lisa DiMartino, Chief of Staff. But I'll turn it over to the superintendent and then continue the presentation.
I've heard a lot of stories while sitting back here, and thank you for the many years of services. It takes people like us to make sure that this work is done. It's not done by one individual. I can remember the first time I sat here, like a deer in headlights, looking at the chair and the committee and the commissioner. And I was so afraid of the hard work that was needed to get us to where we are today. In 2019, the Johns Hopkins report says, begin to say, it says, 2019, Johns Hopkins PPSD was described as following. The Providence Public School District was overburdened with multiple overlapping sources of governance, bureaucracy, with no clear domain of authority, and very little scope of transformative change. It goes on to say the stakeholders understandably expressed little to no hope of serious reform. Let that sit with me for a second. I consider myself a proud son of Providence. Born in New York City, but a proud son of Providence because of what Providence has done for me. It changed my life. Education changed my life. But I was also here when the Johns Hopkins report. I still remember walking into the high school, Hope High School, smelling the same scent when I was a student there, looking at the same stains when I was a student there on the walls. The buildings falling apart. You heard the commissioner. You heard of all the work that's happening. I have to say that I'm proud, first of all, of the chair of this committee for sticking to your guns and making sure that our Providence students receive the education that they deserve. I want to say thank you to our commissioner and her team at RIDE for making sure that we was there hand in hand, helping us, guiding us, and making sure that we did this work. Because it wasn't about us. When you start, and I love what you said, because that's something I've always said. If you focus on students, everything else will fall into place. But when you have the Johns Hopkins report saying that people still don't believe that we have the ability, our students didn't have the abilities to learn. You know how that makes us feel as a community? My 30 years spent in Providence, from a teacher to a principal, and now you're superintendent. This work, once again, cannot be done alone. I need to stand up. I'm sorry. This work cannot be done by itself. And it took all of us. When we speak about our students, I take it personal. When we speak about the outcomes of our students, I take it personal. I know what it is not to have a curriculum in my classroom. I know what it was to have to build a curriculum so I can share it with other bilingual teachers when they came into my building when I was a second grade bilingual teacher. I know what it was to go through. This too shall pass, because it was just another thing that some people was going to do and bring in. We did not have consistency. And guess what? For the first time in 30 years, in the last 5 years, or the last 6 years that I had the commissioner working and doing the work that she does in this team, I never felt that before. That's why when I was asked, would you be willing to take the helm? I didn't think about it twice. Because once again, I was thinking about my kids. As a classroom teacher, I thought of students, 26 students in my classroom that I can support and change their lives. And I asked myself, what else can I do? So I decided, hey, maybe I'll move on up and become a principal. And now I was in charge of 700 students. But at that time, we had 24,000 students. Do the math. And now as your superintendent, I'm in charge first of 20,000 students and now to 19,400 and almost 700. With 1,800 teachers and administrators, faculty and staff, and my entire community. The weight is on my shoulder. Yes, the crown is heavy. But I chose to do this because I said, you know what? I believe in our commission. I believe in the vision. I believe in the work that we're doing. I believe in our kids. I believe in our community. I know that we can do this. And when I started 5.5 years ago, and I made a comment, Providence will become the destination of education. Yeah. People think what you're doing right now, you're just looking at me like, you know where you're at? You know what's the problem that we have? That people still believe that we are in the Johns Hopkins stage. They still believe that There is no way that you can take them out of that. You know what? But our data speaks for itself. We improved our reading scores. We improved our math scores. We improved SATs in both English and math. We improved our attendance. We dropped 29 percentage points in our chronic absenteeism. We made sure that we have a high quality curriculum every day in every classroom. Thank you, Dr. Dillon. Thank you, Zach. Thank you to our parents who are here, who fought with us 24 hours a day around the clock, making sure that we did what we needed to do for our students. And then you ask me, can I continue doing this work? This is not work. This is a calling. This is our kids. This is our future. These are our leaders. I had something written up to speak to you about, but I can't speak to you about that because I got to tell you what's in my heart, because this is the only time that I have the opportunity to share this with you, because you are doing the right job. How hard it is? Yes, it's hard, but it's the right thing that we're doing for our kids. And if we don't take the opportunity to do this for our kids now, then when? So when people are out there still, a lot of naysayers who don't want to believe that Providence is doing what it's doing. They don't want to believe that. Every time I go somewhere, they go, oh, you work in Providence? Oh, you're the superintendent of Providence? Oh, yes, I am, man. Because I believe in the work that we do. That's why I say thank you. I will put my teachers and my students against anybody else. I keep hearing Rhode Island is doing great work. Rhode Island is moving in the right direction. But you know what? Providence is a huge part of that. Don't forget us. Don't forget what we've done. Don't forget where we were. Don't forget where we at. And we're not naive, because we still know we have a lot of work to continue doing for the future. But if you don't keep the consistency, the momentum, the work, the heart, the drive, then you can pull up that again. Pull up the Johns Hopkins report, because you're going to see it again. You know about history, right? It repeats itself. So make sure you understand what your history is, so you don't repeat it, and make sure that you continue making the right choices as we move forward with the work that we do. I'm sorry I took you to church, but I just couldn't let you go there. I had to say it, because you know what? If I don't say it, then who will? Because I'm the #1 cheerleader for Providence. So thank you. I'm sorry, June. Back to you.
I have the honor of working with this team every day, and they are very special. I appreciate all the work they do every day.
I'm sorry.
Yes, please keep.
We have a forum June 3rd, at 6 o'clock at PCTA. We started with the TAP, the Turnaround Action Plan. We want to make sure that those voices are continued to be heard. On that day, all stakeholders, please come out. June 3rd, 6 o'clock, PCTA. We will continue having those conversations to make sure that we continue taking the work into the future. I'm sorry, Drew, back to you.
Good, thank you. Interruption. I just to sort of situate this presentation, I think we want to start with sort of what's the current state of performance, and what is the evidence and data telling us about how students are currently performing in Providence. I believe at my core that sort of outcomes need to matter. And so I try to center the evidence and data to use that to inform whether or not a system is making progress. And I also believe in this idea of continuous improvement, that we should be looking at, are we better tomorrow than we were yesterday? And do we continue to see evidence that things are moving in the right direction? Or is the evidence suggesting that things are stalled or declining? And I think I can say with great confidence in virtually every metric that we might be looking for around whether or not Providence is improving as a system, it is very clear that it is moving in the right direction on every metric. There are only 6 school districts in the state that have reached their pre-pandemic levels. Providence is one of them. Their growth data is out surpassing all the other urban LEAs in the state, and the national sort of assessments have suggested that Providence is a leader in New England and across the nation around recovery. They have the largest decrease in chronic absenteeism in the entire state. That has led to $1.3 million of 1.3 million hours of instructional time for students. In 2024, which is the most recent graduation data that has been released, their 4-year graduation rate was cut in half between them and the state, and they have reached their all-time highest graduation rates. I will show you, I think, very compelling data, as we've talked about before, that they are providing opportunities that did not exist in 2019 to their students. Whether those are new opportunities that you've heard about this evening around new CTE options and programs across the district, increased access to AP classes that is helping to lead Rhode Island forward, and improved outcomes on that is quite compelling.
Drew, before you
Please.
continue, I just want to remind everyone that the intervention began in November 2019. It was superintendent in February, and in March, it all shut down with the coronavirus. And we opened up schools starting that summer. Providence was one of the few places in the nation. I just found the New York Times article last night that was able to open, large urban districts that were able to open during the pandemic. So that says a lot about the grit and the resistance that our system has in doing almost impossible things, because that felt impossible. I think we've sort of taken it out of our mind, but that was a hard time. And in spite of that, you will see the progress that has been made.
Another piece of evidence to suggest that there is significant momentum is that there has only been in the history pre-intervention one school in Providence's history who has won the Blue Ribbon Award. Many of you know that under most federal administrations, the U.S. Department of Education acknowledges schools that are on the move, that have high levels of proficiency, and also have done significant work to close gaps. Classical High School was that only school that had received that honor in 2017. Since the intervention, two schools, both elementary schools, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School and the Robert L. Bailey, the 4th Elementary School, have both won this national prestige.
Time. History of Providence.
I've mentioned before that I really believe in this idea of continuous improvement, and the PPSD team honors that sort of spirit too. And we're constantly looking at data to uncover whether or not there's evidence of progress. We continue to see each year increasing scores relative to both ELA and mathematics on RICAS. That is also true on SAT. We also see a growing number of multilingual learners around the system. That number has doubled since 2012, 2013 to the number that they serve today in 25, 26. Providence is exiting students from multilingual learner services, which means that they're reaching the highest level of access score at a higher rate than virtually every other urban school district in the state, which means that students are accessing the general education curriculum at a much faster pace than if they were not making that progress. Do you want to make a point there, Commissioner?
No, I just wanted something that's important for us to go back. I'm going to be everybody's memory here. When we intervened, we had the coronavirus. If you guys remember, Providence and Central Falls were the hardest hit in the entire state. Like, those kids felt that in a very different way. They lost family members. It was just a very different experience, because people may see the dip, but then you see them come back up because it's a very resilient community. But Providence has a large number of multilingual learners. About 33% of the population is multilingual learners in Providence. That's huge. That's huge, because that's an ever-changing population. They come in at different times of the year. They come in with different backgrounds, and they have been able, and you'll see the next slide, to move these students in ways that you can't capture just like on the ELA RICAS. If you've been here a year, what does that look like? One of the things that we talked around this table, if you recall, in 2019, our multilingual learners were not exiting and not doing as well after they exit as former multilingual learners. In the entire United States, multilingual learners, once they exit, they outperform the other students. We did not have that. It was just not happening, because we were not giving the students the supports and the teachers the ability to learn the things that they needed to so that they can move our students. And if you see now where we were, sorry, but keep going.
Please, yeah. This is not what you want.
No, no, no.
Okay.
no.
Oh, no, please, take this slide.
So we were at 18.3, that I think is really important when we exit our students because they outperform. And if you see the trend of what's happening, those kids are doing better than kids that have never been MLLs. That is huge.
Can I say something?
What was that?
Good teaching is good teaching regardless who you're teaching. And one of the things that we did was make sure that we invested in teachers. In the time that we have during the pandemic until now, where we saved about 500 teachers, we paid for 500 teachers to get ESL certified to make sure that they're meeting the needs of our students who are multilingual learners. Because once again, good teaching is good teaching, but if you don't have the tools, how are you supposed to meet their needs? That's the correspondence between making sure we paid for them to get trained so they can do this.
And that's how you get to accelerate English language development for multilingual learners, that investment, which then gets you to those outcomes.
Right, and those were courses, but we also did workshops with every single teacher across the district. Every single teacher in Providence has been trained, and most teachers have dual certification at this point. Because those kids sit with different teachers throughout the day, depending on their grade level, and all the teachers needed to have that certification. So we're very proud of that work. That did not exist, and this is what got us out of the consent decree that we were in with the Department of Justice. This is really important because our kids started outperforming just like in other places. And pretty amazing, guys, if you see this. We're talking about ELA, RICAS scores. We're talking about English. The teachers were given the opportunity to continue to learn and continue to be supported as the years went on. And we very strategically invested in this for teachers.
The data has also moved in a positive direction around decreasing chronic absenteeism. You'll see that the district hit a high of its chronic absenteeism in year 21-22, with 57.1% of students being chronically absent of 12,230 students. You can see that they have been intentional and focused on this work. We'll talk a little bit about the systems that they put in place to do this later in the presentation. But you'll see over the last few years that those numbers continue to decline. We're getting more kids in school on time and learning for the entire school day. They're on track to best their 24-25 numbers as we close the school year.
And Drew, I just want to point everybody's attention to 17-18. Where it was at 35%. That was pre-pandemic, pre-intervention. We know that the pandemic has impacted every country in the world at this point. But what we're looking at is even pre-pandemic, pre-intervention, the numbers are lower. And this is something that we were not talking about. This is really very exciting for us.
We mentioned earlier in the presentation that since 2019, the district has cut in half its gap, its four-year graduation rate with the state. In 2019, that gap was 10.3 percentage points. That gap today is 4.7 percentage points. So clearly there is still more work to do, but the district is making progress in catching the state, which is a really important, I think, milestone for them to continue. I'll also name, I think it's maybe in a later slide, but just sort of share that of their students who have completed a CTE program, they have 100% graduation rate of those students, which is pretty impressive. This is the data that I like nerd out about and get so excited about. I think Steve Osborne in his presentation, I think very rightfully communicated that Rhode Island is leading the way as it relates to AP scores and AP access. And the superintendent is also quite correct that we can't get there without moving Providence. From a year ago, Providence saw a 10.5% increase in the number of AP exams taken in 1 year. And of those increased exams that were taken, a 30% increase in the percentage of students who scored a 3, 4, or 5. You can see that data broken up by racial and ethnic groups across the district. with Hispanic and Latino and Black students being having the largest increase on both the access and scores of 3, 4, and 5.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
And we know that this is also about increasing opportunities for students. And the superintendent and his team have been intentional about listening to the voices of students and families about programming that they want and working directly with those school communities to add new innovative programs, in some cases, programs that only exist in PPSD at this point, that are very exciting. And next school year, for the first time, 100% of high schools will offer at least one RIDE-approved CTE program with classical, adding the medical program, the pre-medical program for the school year 26.
One second. I think as you see the RIDE approved, RIDE has a very stringent criteria for what is CTE. So when we came in, a lot of them were not RIDE approved CTE programs. So we've been working with them. And I just want to bring to everybody's attention, the pre-engineering is pretty phenomenal, but we have programs in every single school. And again, the dental, that is very unique. Event design and production, that's very unique. And to have classical have a CTE program, that's pretty amazing, guys. It's pretty amazing because it speaks to the level and the caliber of what the work that's being done. These are not run-of-the-mill programs. We're very proud to be able to show that today.
Can I just put in a little plug? I'm so excited about some of my students right now. We had 97 of our students that were in CTE programs at PCTA for welding, who was just hired right out of high school with a contract to work at electric boat starting at $20, $25, and $30 an hour. 97 of our students out of 400 students.
400 students statewide.
Statewide. And some came from New York City.
I think it's pretty amazing because our kids, this changes their life. Yeah. This is life changes, this is community changing. And I will say that I was able to attend the statewide fair last week. And there was just so much pride in the work that we're doing across the state, not just the Providence.
We also know that while there is significant more work to do, and we do share some concerns around the timeline of building projects, which we'll talk about potentially later in this presentation or at a later date, we just also want to acknowledge that there's been some really good work done in the space. You'll see some images here from sort of pre-intervention days, and you'll see some after shots of what the spaces look like today. I find the sort of the Hope High School auditorium one to be quite compelling. You'll see the differences in Nerducci from the Learning Center before and then after, and the new Spaziano above the elementary and middle school grades will be extraordinary buildings for students. And so I just want to acknowledge the SBA team and the PPSD team, particularly Zach Scott and his team, who have just been extraordinary to move these projects.
And Drew, I just want to remind everyone here and everyone, when we went into Providence with the intervention, one of the things that we agreed upon with the mayor and the administration is that they were going to keep the buildings. We informed the plan that they are the owners of the buildings and they are the owners of the work that needs to be done and the timelines that need to be met. I want everybody to remember that. So when we did like the whole high school auditorium, I remember, I mean, this is an anecdote, but I guess, you know, because we are where we are, somebody came up to me and said, don't worry, we were gonna fix the auditorium, commissioner, our alumni group. I was like, oh, that's great. Wonderful. Why'd you do it? Right? Like, I appreciate everybody's, you know, enthusiasm, but it's hard work and it's finding the money that actually we were going to lose to put it in that space. We have a performing arts school. You can't have a performing arts school without an auditorium. And that picture there, I used to walk around with it to remind us all of how we allowed our schools to fall into that condition. We had students going there, we had teachers going there, we had parents going there, and this is what our buildings look like. Shameful.
Shame on us for allowing that to happen. And we're going to stress the buildings because this is really important, guys. What happens moving forward will matter.
So I think it's important to just take stock, and I apologize, this presentation is probably going on longer than folks would like, but I do think it's important that we communicate on record, I think, some of the systems that got us here. These things don't happen by accident. They happen because of design and because of intentionality and because of strategy. Obviously, huge kudos to the commissioner and the superintendent, his team, for really leading these key initiatives and systems such that they could get to better outcomes for the students we serve. So I want to break this up into just sort of 3 categories, and I won't spend a ton of time on this, but I think it's important that the council get a flavor of the different systems and structures that worked to drive improvements. And I'll break them up into 3 categories. 1, systems related to family and community engagement. 2, systems and structures that are related to academics. And then 3rd, operations. And so on the family and community engagement side, and we really want to intentionally lead with this because in part, the beginning of the turnaround action plan was done in collaboration. The commissioner did that in collaboration with the community. There were countless community meetings where the voices and the hopes and the dreams of the community were captured and repeated back to the community in a document through the turnaround action plan. But at that point in the district's sort of trajectory, there was no senior level leader leading family and community engagement. So there was a reorganization of the district central office, particularly the family community engagement office, to elevate 2 positions that focus at the chief level around leadership for equity and for family community engagement. That's the chief of family community engagement and the chief of opportunity and access. Those are positions in sort of job functions that did not exist pre-intervention. One of the early moves that the team did to really sort of encourage and to capture family voice was to have parent academies. These were opportunities for families to learn directly from other families and PPSD central office and educators across the system about how they could best advocate and support their children and to navigate the PPSD system. I think there is clearly an opportunity, I think, when parents have opportunities to work with other caregivers and other families across the system, that there's a level of trust and a level of partnership that exists that I think makes that learning so much more powerful. There is no doubt in my mind that Providence is leading the way across the state around making sure that multilingual learner families have access to the content they need in the language that they need. There are interpreters at every meeting. They are ensured, of course, that IEP meetings have appropriate coverage and interpretation in those meetings. All the materials that go home are translated for families. They have invested significant amount of resources and time and energy to make sure that they are honoring the languages of the families they serve and ensuring that families have that information in real time. They have partnered with organizations such as the Annenberg Institute to do evaluations around some of their community partner work to try to understand which CBOs are getting to better outcomes for the students they serve. What are the quality and efficacy of the tutoring programs? What is the quality of the professional learning for families through the parent academies? Annenberg has done a lot of those evaluations and I think help prepare that department to continue to be better advocates and better supports to families. And I think they've done extraordinary work just reaching out to grassroots coalitions across the city. We heard from leaders from the Parents Leading for Educational Equity here this evening from PLE and Arise. And partnering with those organizations, I think, has worked to really drive transparency. I'm going to ask the commissioner if she wouldn't mind just to take this slide. She's done extraordinary work partnering with the PAC and DWAC. I think those are really powerful sort of leadership teams that RIDE and PPSD have leveraged to help drive the improvements.
These 2 groups have been extremely essential for the work that's taking place. Some of the parents involved were there since day one, wanting to have a better district, wanting to have a district that they can be proud of, a district that their voice is heard. And that has happened. Sometimes it's been uncomfortable. I have been in those meetings where we are being told that's not good enough, or you messed up, and fix it. And we appreciate that because we're better as a district because of it. And what was important for us is that we were hearing it straight from them. Every conversation that we had and everything that was going to come out to the community, it went through them first. They have been the partners, and sometimes they have, they've been critical of us, but they've been critical of every other entity, and they helped a great deal with the lawsuit that happened. They were front and center. They show up for kids, and I have to thank them because they are always there. PAC and DWAC have been the engines that have kept this train running. So I want to thank them, and their commitment to the district needs to continue. These are very strong groups that can help to continue to move the system forward, or will hold you accountable, or both. At the end of the day, we cannot be the only entity holding people accountable. This happened with the community. It has to go back to the community to continue to do the work with the elected officials that are in place that have to do this work moving forward. So that is important for us. These two are really the way that things continue to move forward.
One of the things, there are many things I appreciate about the superintendent. I have opportunities to visit schools with him, and from the first day, my first day here at RIDE was a school visit with him, and that day I knew right away he was probably one of the most popular people in Providence. Every teacher knows him, kids know him. They come out of their classrooms to give him a hug. When we're walking the streets, people are beeping their horn, waving at the superintendent. And for those of you who know him, he is skilled at many things, including his work with the community, and he's at his best when he's with students. He has an opportunity to meet regularly with a student advisory council. They help give him feedback on the state of the district.
He developed the student advisory council.
Yes, sorry, I meant to say that. He developed that and has been working, I think, very actively to ensure that he's listening to the voices of the students he serves. He ensures that he has design teams when there's new policies that the district is considering to get feedback from students. They have been actively involved in getting feedback from him and his team about progress the system is making toward the turnaround action plans, and continues to just really directly speak to the youth in the school district. There has been significant work done, as sort of evidenced by the data around work to ensure that the system is making progress around attendance. The level of active family communication to students and to families is exceptional, and has helped provide real-time information to families about the status of their child as it relates to absenteeism. And that has been an incredible, I think, support around helping to make progress in that area, as well as to really dealing with students from a restorative perspective whenever possible. Clearly, there are codes of conduct, and there are things that need to be followed, but we also need to listen to the voices of students, and the superintendent's team do that exceptionally well. And then I think there have been an enormous amount of work to really link Providence's work with outside agencies, including the city recreation department and safety personnel, to make sure that students and families have the supports that they need. And they have particularly done this in the area of housing. When they get information that a family may be housing insecure, they are working very closely with community agencies to make sure that those families have what they need. I wanted to just turn quickly to sort of academic systems. I think there's been an incredible amount of work. I often say, just from my work spending time in the district and spending time in other districts, that I think that the Providence team has the most sophisticated academic system in the state. We are able to meet regularly to dig into data and to assess whether or not the system is making progress. I just want to acknowledge that the development of the turnaround action plan was done directly in collaboration with community and centers in a way that I think maybe had never been done before, students and their outcomes at the core of that document. And that became the main thing that the superintendent and his team were really driving toward. They adopted uniformed HQIM, or high quality instructional materials, mathematics, math, and science, and have really partnered with RIDE through some key initiatives to make sure that there's a deep focus on implementation.
Can I just jump in for a
Please.
second? The selection of the curriculum, if you recall, it was done with 150 teachers that we sat down, they piloted, then they selected the curriculum. And on top of that, it was selected because it also came in Spanish. We have a large number of Spanish speaking students, and it was the only curriculum at the time that came in another language.
And this doesn't happen unless you also invest in teachers. I think there has been a lot of thought that has gone into working directly with educators and principals to ensure that collaborative time at sort of in their PLCs is sort of dedicated toward planning for the students that they serve. There's been additional time on learning for adults, additional professional development time that has been dedicated to improving tier 1 instruction in addition to the embedded professional development that's happening at the schoolhouse. There's also been an additional instructional time for students over the course of the intervention, both leveraging ESSER dollars to make sure that post-recovery that students were in school for a longer period of time, and through contract negotiations and through the collective bargaining agreement have locked into additional instructional time for students in the pre-K to 8 system.
You just said something that it's important that, one of the other things that the superintendent did is that he also has a teacher's council. He meets with the teachers to get their feedback, their concerns, how they want to work together. And that did not exist. So he has the student as well as the teacher.
You can also add the principal cabinet.
Yes, and the principal's cabinet. So those are things that were not part of the system that is really important as you do this work, is to get the buy-in for everyone. Not everybody's going to be happy all the time. But if you recall, it was one professional development day. Remember that conversation with the Johns Hopkins report? And one of the first things that we did was the first year there was 5 extra professional development days. And then there was 3, and we continue to build on that. And then we're going back to in the classroom, because obviously after you have the groundwork, when you implement new curriculum, you have to dedicate time to implementation. And that was the time that was implemented. And there were, a lot of entities that helped us along as we did this work. But if you recall, Providence is one of the few districts that added extra time during the pandemic. They're actually the only district in the state of Rhode Island that added extra time that was equivalent to 15 extra days for students, as well as the fact that during the break, we started holding class sessions. We had no idea that we would have as many students come in during the spring break. They were coming in. And principals were asking for more and more throughout the district. So that's a testament to all the work that has taken place and what we know makes a difference. And it is about instructional time, giving teachers the support that they need, and having a high quality curriculum. And that's something that we have done in this board, not just for Providence, but throughout the state, but implementation matters. And we were trying to model that here for everyone else, because it's really important and that they're in a place now that they can say all their teachers are trained in MLO strategies. They have certification, the science of reading, curriculum. There has been time invested on all this work. So I think that Providence is in a good place if they follow the roadmap.
Just going to move this along a little faster on this slide. I just want to highlight the sort of additive bilingual model programs that have been added in Providence. I think they're one of the few districts to offer dual language program across a pre-K to 12 system. And so there are now middle school and high school dual language options in PPSD, and a real sort of deep focus on leveraging native language as an asset for the students we serve. And as the commissioner and the superintendent mentioned earlier, because of the investment, particularly in the credentials of the teachers that are in front of our students, we were able to exit the Department of Justice monitoring oversight significantly earlier than virtually every other school district around the country. I just want to name this because I think from a governance perspective, it's really important. We have kept our eyes on progress that students are making toward the turnaround action plan goals, and whether or not there's evidence or non-evidence of students improving on the sort of key organizational metrics. We meet every 2 weeks to go through the data with the PPSD team. I'm walking schools with the team. My colleagues at RIDE are doing that. We're collecting information about what we see in classrooms, matching that with what the student data is telling us. And we are collectively having a sort of continuous improvement cycle, and once a quarter stopping and taking full stock about whether or not we're continuing to make the type of progress that we know is necessary for students. I think this type of like continuous improvement focus, I think, has been really helpful to us as an organization and in support of PPSD, but to also make sure that they are able as a team to communicate the things that they need from a technical assistance. And then we wrap our arms around that team and make sure that they have what they need in real time. And then I just want to quickly go through, I think, some of the work that has happened from an operational perspective, really focusing first on sort of construction projects. I think the team has been extraordinary in leading, I think, some really strategic work. They knew that in order for us to sort of move forward, we had to really get to sort of newer and fewer schools. That was going to require that we sort of consolidate, we merge, we potentially close schools. And those, to the commissioner's point earlier, are some of the most difficult conversations you're going to have in pre-K to 12 education. They were hard, but they were necessary in order for us to move forward. And I think has gotten us moving toward a portfolio that makes sense for the current enrollment patterns in the district, and has also allowed us to invest in schools from a facilities perspective. Kudos to the academics team who has worked hand in hand with the operations team to make sure that those buildings are really intentionally thought about from an academic perspective. The academics needs to lead the way, and the design of the building needs to fit into what that education plan is. But they've also done really important work around thinking about what it means to transition a school from a pre-K to 5 to a pre-K to 8. They have done extraordinary work to sort of digitize, particularly the maintenance work. So in addition to, I think, these school construction projects, which are the exciting things that are happening, there's also the sort of real evidence that we had in the Johns Hopkins report about the sort of real consequences of deferred maintenance in your school buildings. And I think this sort of work order systems, the sort of transparency that it creates, I think has helped really move some of the day-to-day work that needs to happen, in addition to some of the sort of refocusing contracts to be on performance metrics and improvements that are happening, I think has been really critical.
I just want to add a little bit to that, Drew. When we came into the system, there were 21 elementary schools feeding into 7 middle schools. You know how hard that is? That was failure by design.
Yeah.
And we revamped it. That's why we heard the parents. They didn't know where their kids should go in middle schools. Many times they were going across districts, across the city. It was very challenging. And that's why we really wanted to have the pre-K-8 model. And it was in our buildings, we are lucky enough to be able to have the opportunity to build out these structures that are designed for pre-K-8. It's very important that we understand that we heard the parent voices. These were big changes that have been made. And I think that that's something that we want to honor. And, hasn't been easy, guys, has not been easy. And I will say that one of the other things that I think is really important, the school district did not have a revolving fund. That's how you continue to use the interests that you have of buildings for more projects. That did not exist. The school building committee, there was no school building committee. That had to be done from the ground up. That was really important for us. And that we looked at what was going to change outcomes for students as opposed to doing patchwork jobs. And that's what was happening throughout our district. So these were very, very difficult things to do. And I want to say, because you guys experienced it too, they were very noisy. We were fought in every direction. And I tell everybody that this has been, we're going upstream in a canoe, it's half an oar, with piranhas jumping on either side. That's what this has felt like. And I say that to say, because if there would have been, from the moment that we have come into Providence, the conversation has been about return and not about what needs to get done. Day one. And what we want to avoid is what was happening in the past, that this would be a political football.
On the HR front, I think the district has done significant work to, I think, really streamline their HR processes. I want to acknowledge that they have the lowest teacher vacancy on a first day of school this school year at 25-26, which is a huge accomplishment. I think they have done work to make sure that families can register in a much easier, much quicker way to be enrolled in a PPSD school. This year, they had 100% day one assignments for all students who are registered on time. That had not happened previously in the district. And I think they've been very successful at leveraging the state procurement process and moving, I think, the typical procurement process, I think, was somewhere about 96 days pre-intervention to down to about 50 days currently today. Which I think ensures that teachers get their resources and students get their resources in a much, much quicker way. I wanted to just quickly go through, and I know this presentation is getting long, I wanted to go through that because I think it's really important that the council and the community understand that this work doesn't just, you don't get to these improved outcomes by just hoping that those things happen. It's about the intentionality of these systems that I think really helped really move this work, and that is a testament to the commissioner and to the superintendent and his team. But I think we want to be clear on kind of roles and responsibilities upon return should the council approve the commissioner's recommendation. We want to be clear on what that means for the Providence School Board. So their roles and responsibilities around governance and policymaking, that they're to monitor progress toward board and turnaround action plan goals. Their job is to support the superintendent of schools. Their job is to work jointly with district leadership and City of Providence on any plans for shared services. The city has signaled that they're interested in thinking about shared services and things like IT, HR, communications. If that is true, they're going to really need to work with the district leadership and the City of Providence and the Providence Public School Board for any plans on that area. The board has clear roles and responsibility around sort of budgetary and fiscal responsibility. Their job is to adopt a budget that is consistent with whatever the superintendent may recommend and whatever edits and amendments they'd like to make. Their job is to ensure that there is not a deficit, and their job is around sort of approving contractual authority. On personnel, their only job is about hiring and firing a superintendent. If they have concerns or questions about the operational authority or concerns about the district, they can only do that and should only do that through one person, superintendent of schools. And they are to delegate the authority of day-to-day management of the district to the superintendent.
I just want to, this is really important because a couple of things have changed since we had this intervention. First, now it's a hybrid board. So half of the board is elected, the other half is appointed. So the responsibility goes squarely back to the board. As you would, can you go back? No. Yeah, city, how we have.
Oh, I haven't done that yet. Yeah.
So the school board, I think that there's a lot of confusion about who runs the district. We want it to be very clear that the superintendent runs the district. And the role of the board is to support the superintendent. And that's really important as we move forward, because we keep hearing things about who has control, who's gonna do what. I want everybody to know in this room, we have been meeting with the mayor's office, city council, PPSD, and the school board for 2 years. 2 years in this room about what this is gonna look like when it goes back. And also how difficult it has been, because there are places that we have not moved as much as we would like. But in the places that we feel very comfortable, we see that this district can do it. And our role as RIDE is to support them and build a strong foundation. We cannot run a district in perpetuity. That is not what we want to do. That is not our role. But we wanted to make sure that Providence felt strong. And what the district has been able to do is pretty amazing. And what we have for the school board, one of the criteria that we have for them is that they have to get trained. They needed to understand what their role was. And they have been trained by the Council of Great City Schools. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's still things that they need to master. There's a rubric that they have to follow along so that they know what the expectations are.
In terms of the Providence Public School leadership, so the superintendent and his team, the superintendent is charged with the chief executive and administrative duties of the system. That means he's providing administrative oversight. He is implementing the policies that the board might adopt. He is responsible for hiring, assignment, and promotion of staff, any discipline and termination, not the school board. He is responsible for preparing a budget with his team and feedback from his community to bring to the board for consideration. He is responsible for fiscal monitoring of the system and any reporting that needs to be done around any shortfalls. He and his team are also responsible for curriculum implementation, student safety and support, and data reporting, particularly the sole responsibility for data access and management, which we want to be very clear about. The mayor and his team have expressed an interest in access, potentially unfettered access to student data. That is, of course, a violation of FERPA. And to be very clear, the data belongs to PPSD and will be housed separately from any systems or structures that
It is actually against the law to share any student data. So I want everybody to be clear on the parameters as this transitions.
In terms of the city of Providence, they are responsible. The city is responsible for procurement. The city's current procurement proposal, I think, is sadly unchanged from the reports that were outlined in the John Hopkins report. We are very concerned about this. We have communicated this in writing to the city and to a broader group of stakeholders. To be clear, the average number of days when a proposal is submitted to when a contract was awarded pre-intervention was 96 days. That is currently down to 50 days. If we go back to the 96 days, it's going to have huge implications for teachers and students not having what they need in real time.
And remember, the threshold is very low. Can't even buy paper for that amount of money. And they're currently using the state procurement process, and it is much better. So that's saying a lot, right? We don't think of the state as being something that doesn't have a lot of bureaucracy or encumbered, but it is much better than the system that is locally. That is decided at the local level. I don't want anyone to be confused. That is something that squarely falls under the city of Providence. That means the mayor and the city council.
The city is also responsible for ensuring that it meets its funding obligations to the school district, and the mayor will need to do that in collaboration with the city council. The city is responsible for ensuring that its buildings projects, they are the owners of those projects, to the commissioner's earlier point. Many of them are currently off timeline, and this will have an impact on available funds for future projects, and also will jam up swing space that the district desperately needs in order to move more projects forward. And so we're really encouraging the city to do everything it can to get those projects on track, and we'll continue to communicate to the city in real time when we see that those are not.
I just want to add here, Drew, as I mentioned earlier, during the negotiations at the conversations that we had before we went into Providence, the city was adamant about keeping the buildings and maintaining the buildings, and that was their responsibility. Our role, meaning the collective role, has been to really help guide that work, make sure that it's meeting the needs of the community, the K-8 buildings, more modern buildings, that the kids have access and the teachers have access to state-of-the-art facilities. But this is all squarely in the hands of the city. And, you know, sometimes they're happy with us, sometimes they're not, because we have been bullish about what the expectations are. And we have taken everybody to task. And there's some concerns here, but that is their responsibility. And I think that the taxpayers have to continue to push and hold the city responsible for those buildings.
The city also should have, it is our belief that the city should have a space on the CBA negotiations team. Obviously, the mayor and the city council need to make significant contributions toward PPSD to meet its legal obligation, and believe that it should have a seat on the negotiations team, and that they must work and be transparent with the school board and district leadership on any plans they might have about shared services. And then finally, I'll maybe also just ask the commissioner to jump in here too, is about the role of RIDE moving forward. I think we want to be clear that we will continue to provide technical assistance, especially as it relates to chronically underperforming schools and CSI and or redesign, just as we do with every other district that might be in that space. We'll both partner and provide support and accountability to make sure that there's progress for those specific schools. I don't know, Commissioner, if there's anything else you want to add.
I just want to make clear to everyone what our role will be moving forward. As we were having conversations, I'm sure all of you saw last week. Last week became very public conversation, not that we wanted to. We have been talking and tried to negotiate with the board, and a document was released that was not approved, that we had not agreed on, and it caused a lot of confusion. To be clear, we will have the role that we have in other districts with low performing schools, but we will not running the schools. I think that we need to be very, very clear about that, because when we were having those conversations, something became very clear. They wanted us to continue to do the work. Actually, they put an extra thing on our plate that we had never managed. And the only two things that they were interested in was supervising the superintendent and my veto power. So as we start thinking about when is it time for it to go back, time is now. I'll tell you why, because they have been watching, have been engaged. I have only used my veto power twice in the entire intervention. It is time for everyone to take responsibility. We can't continue to do this. From day one, we have heard, the community has said, we want you to come in and we want you to do this work. And now we're hearing from the community that they want their schools back. Started with the community, we want to end with the community. That's why we're going to have this event on June 3rd, that everyone should come, because there will be a document released after that event. But I think that it's really important that we will continue our regulatory responsibility the same way we do with other districts. For me, that was very telling. I think that we have to take off the training wheels. This work has to happen. These are people that were elected to do this, who have come before me and have said, Commissioner, we are ready. The mayor has said that, the city council has said that, so has the school. I think it's really important that we look at all the progress and the strong foundation that we have built for PPSD to make gains. And we will continue to look at what's happening. We will continue to play that role. We will be focused on the core work and the areas that we need to move forward. But we will not be doing the day-to-day. I want everyone to be clear on that.
So we are rounding third and headed home. And so I just want to quickly give you an update on the commissioner's order, which is in your packet and linked in the agenda, just to give you a sense of what is inside that order, and the commissioner and the team can take any questions that you might have. And so the recommended order is that PPSD would officially exit turnaround status and return to local control on June 30th, 2026. Until that time, the commissioner retains full authority under the Crowley Act until the turnaround end date, which would be June 30th, 2026, including the right to modify or rescind the order. Following the transition, the commissioner will maintain statutory oversight and enforcement powers over the district, like she would any district across the state. The order outlines the evidence of progress the commissioner is drawing upon to make this recommendation. The order also concludes with 13 actions that she expects leaders will take as we approach the June 30th deadline in order to ensure that the progress that we have seen in PPSD continues and that we work to prevent any academic regression and avoid any return to old practices that got us in the quandary that we have been in over the last few years.
And I think that that's really important because some people maybe, I've heard people say, but it's only 1 month to get there. No, we've been meeting with them for 2 years. I want everybody to be clear on that. This is not that, something changed last week. We have been meeting with them for 2 years, and for 2 years, they have been saying, we are ready, we want it back. If we would have spent as much time on what needed to move forward as opposed to talking about getting it back, we'd be further along. So it is important that we get all the stakeholders involved to have skin in the game. If the district is going to be successful, those people need to be able to have the opportunity to move the district forward. We've laid a strong foundation. We are going to be vigilant about what happens next.
I won't walk you through all sort of 13 sort of expectations, but I'll just sort of name a few. In the budget documents that the city released, there was a footnote in one of their budget documents that suggested that they would claw back any surplus or fund balance that PPSD might carry from 1 year to the next. We just want to be very explicit that we are expecting that any year-end surplus remains explicitly with PPSD. Those are their dollars for students and families and for the work that they're doing across the system. Just want to also acknowledge that I think one of the benefits of the settlement agreement as it related to finance is that for this academic year, PPSD had, I think, the greatest clarity about the sort of financial commitment that the city was going to make. We really encourage the mayor and the city council to work together to offer sort of as much information as possible about what the financial commitment of the city will be toward PPSD and to have the city council pass an ordinance memorializing that agreement.
I think it's important, and we've heard it is very difficult to plan when you don't know what kind of money you're going to have. And that commitment is something that we have gotten in the last few years with what happened with the legal system. But I think it's really important. There was this conversation, well, how can PPSD put a budget together, bring a budget to the city? It should be the other way around. That's not how it should work. You can't say, here's $50,000, work with that. We have to tell you that it's going to take $150,000. And we expect that everybody work towards meeting that. So I think there was a lot of the dog wagging the tail. And I think the tail wagging the dog, yes, the tail wagging the dog. That's not how you do things, right? For many years, the district was confined to that. This is what you're going to get, make it work. And if we want a system that's thriving, we need to figure out what the system needs, what the students need, what the teachers need, and everybody that's making decisions for kids, and then we find the way to fund it. That is how budgeting should be approached.
And then I'll just name, I think another expectation that we're really hoping on is the board is going to continue to do more work to ensure that it's focusing its time and attention in centering student outcomes for at least 40% of its open session meeting times that are actually focused on evaluating whether or not the system is making progress toward the board goals and toward the turnaround action plan goals that are outlined, and that becomes their main work. Also acknowledge just a few other things that are important is that the board continue to partner with RIDE and with the Providence Public Schools to make sure that they're monitoring the city's implementation of the $1 billion school facilities plan. And very important from our perspective is to make sure that there is a unified clear legal counsel for the district. The board, the district, and the city solicitor must mutually agree upon a single chief legal counsel to properly staff the legal office. So those are some of the expectations that are outlined in the order. I'll just sort of close by saying, and then the commissioner and the superintendent might want to add a few things, but this is, from my perspective, the first time in decades that PPSD has experienced multiple years of continuous improvement on virtually every metric. To the commissioner's point, the foundation is there. And many people have contributed to this success. There are many people to thank, including and most notably our students and our families who do this work every day. And our local leaders now have the opportunity to stay the course. And this next chapter is really going to matter. The foundation is there. We see the evidence of that. And the hard work will begin for the city and for the board to ensure that they continue that legacy. So I'll turn over to the commissioner just in case there are any last thoughts.
And I think it's important for us to understand that you can still be holding people accountable different ways. But these are the expectations, and it is very clear what the city's role is. It is funding, procurement, and buildings. Are there concerns? Absolutely. School board has got training, needs more training. I watched the last meeting where there was a lot of conversation about the adults and not about the kids. So that's why it's one of the metrics here. Have to be talking about improvements for kids. And we're going to be watching. We don't go away. That's not what's happening here. But what we're not going to be doing is the day-to-day work. I have to commend the team at RIDE. We have taken this on with no additional staff. And it has been hard work. I have to tell you, there are many nights that we didn't go home till 8, 9 o'clock doing this work. Many early mornings. This has been hard work, but we have dedicated the time to this. But at some point, it has to move forward. And this is the inflection point. We're in a place where what happens now? My preference is that we are here till 2027, that we still have a voice in how things happen. I think that that's really important. It's not like turning on a light switch, which is what people are thinking is going to happen on July 1st. There has been a lot of foundational work. Everybody knows what the expectations are. That's why those last few slides about what everybody's lane is really important. Because one of the biggest challenges that Providence had is that there was no lane. There was one big fat lane and everybody was in it. You cannot do this work without delineating the responsibilities of the people that are in charge. And we've heard multiple times from everyone that they are ready. They have told us that they are ready. See, but these are the elected officials that are doing this work. And I can't stress to you enough that we're not going to have another report. We're going to hold everybody that's there accountable. There cannot be a third report, guys. The district is set up for success right now. There's more work to be done. I don't want anyone to think that we said that everything is where it should be. No. But there will be a manual that will be left so that everybody knows where things are, how things are done. So, because, as things transition, people are going to say, well, this is not here. No, it is here. Here it is. And that's why that June 3rd meeting is going to be really important. There will be a manual, there will be a video of all the expectations, all the things that have been changed, because there's just so many things that have made this district great where it is right now. It can be exception, and that's where we want everyone to take them to the next step. You don't get elected to a position and not support the people that elected you. I think that that's really important. I say that for all parties involved. School board needs to listen to the parents, PAC and the DPAC, all the people doing the work. Everybody needs to listen to the community. We did this with the community. We have heard from the community that they want it back. We want to support them, but we will not have the same. If I cannot veto, and if the superintendent is going to be supervised by 3 different entities, it's not going to work. Therefore, it is time for us to go back, because that is not a good way to function.
And I think that there's been a lot of tension going back and forth. So it is time for them to take the helm, move forward, and, build upon that foundation. It's been a lot of school construction. Let's continue to build on the success. So that's why we're bringing to you this decision of returning Providence schools June 30th. And this is very hard. I don't want to get emotional. I promised myself that I wouldn't. But this has been a lot of work, guys. And the team here has gone above and beyond to do things that other districts are struggling to do today. And we cannot move forward as a state if Providence doesn't move forward. And when we took over this intervention, there was a lot of, oh, we're not going to invest in Providence because it won't get done. It's done, guys. People have invested. We have food pantries on our middle schools and high schools. Why? Because we know that matters. We know that we have put in the things that matter for families. 1 mile for kids to walk. I can't tell you how many times I heard parents say, our kids can't come to school when it's cold. 2 miles is too far for them to walk. We took care of all those things that may seem minor to other people, but really help the district function. Local community schools, that was something else that we tackled. Tackled all of the issues that came up in the Johns Hopkins and many, many, many more. But it is time for this community to take some ownership. I think that it is really important that we step back, let them lead in the way that they think it should move forward, but we have left a blueprint. I don't want anyone to think that that has not occurred, because that is what has happened and what we have for us. Open to questions. Questions?
I mean, I do, but I'll defer to Colin. Yeah, where we start. So first of all, amazing work. I think that really has to be said. Thank you to everyone. When I take a look at this, the question that I have, so obviously I've been thinking, transition back with support all the way that we've been talking here. And when I take a look at the recommendations, and you've used the term metric, the term criteria, we talked about holding folks accountable. And toward, I think it's page 8 here. And so what I just need a little help understanding is about the right to rescind or modify the work. So A, do you see this as a set of criteria like a checklist, and that there's going to be some oversight against this checklist that would inform a decision to rescind the order? Is that only up until June 30th, or does that go beyond? That's what I'm not clear out of, hearing the metrics and criteria.
Well, I think that, so I'll address it head on, because there's been a lot of chatter about, oh, is the commissioner going to change her mind? Is she going to about face? That's not what we're doing. Because I've heard that chatter as well. Yeah. So I think that it is, that's not what we're doing. We're not doing that. We're not saying, hey, get it back and we're going to pull it back. Unless Providence starts burning down, then we will look at this a little differently. But we have no intention of rescinding this order.
So without, not chatter, just, the evaluation person that I am, looking at a set of criteria and looking at the idea of rescinding the order. That's why I asked. So I did not know if, for example, this set of recommendations is a set of recommendations, expectations, I think you mentioned that, expectations, and whether or not they're being monitored, in what way, and was it toward a decision that might be made in the future? That was the reason.
Well, I think that it is not about a decision that's made in the future, because, we're completely out October 2027. There's going to be support, but we have no intention of rescinding this, guys. I have to be honest with you. When we were meeting with the board, I will not cause confusion, and that's what was happening. There's no way that I am going to introduce another layer of confusion. That's why it was important that the superintendent had one boss. That was where I drew the line. I have to be clear that everybody's like, well, what happened? There was about face. No, there was. My expectation has always been a transitional approach, but there's been 2 years. How much of a transition are we going to do at this point? And I think the other piece that I think is really important is that if I have no veto power, then I don't know what we're doing. And I think that that was where I said, this needs to go back. They need to be able to run how they see fit. And we are not, there's no intention of rescinding that order. We're not coming back to this table and saying, let's change this order. That is not what's going to happen, at least not on my part.
So would it, I understand you're saying it wouldn't. But it is in there, like, and so for me, like, in reading the document, it's in there, so it is always a legal possibility that I understand and I'm not, like, but if it were to happen, because it's in here legally, it would have to come before this council for it to be rescinded because we
Yes,
are
absolutely.
approving this order, you would have to come back and make the recommendation to rescind it. Okay, that's how I interpreted
Only
it,
through,
but
only through June 30th to call.
only through June 30th.
Talk a little bit more about that because we
Because,
said
well, then
also
it's- then
October
we're-
2027. What's the difference between those two things?
Yeah. So we said that this table, that 2027, October 2027 will be the last day that we thought the intervention would end. In the meantime, now we have created this order. By June 30th is when we're handing over the supposed keys or the
Yes.
badge
Yes.
to the district, to the city, excuse me, the school board. Because I want to be clear, it goes back to the school board, no one else. We will not be coming before you before June 30th with a rescinding of this order that we're putting forward. But will we have the ability to come in and say, you know, this is a problem, this is something that we need to discuss? Yes, I think that we still have that ability to do that work.
But they will be no longer under state control as of July 1.
What the commissioner is communicating is that we have a regulatory role. And so if we see things that we don't like, we're going to raise those things here at the council table and otherwise.
As you say, but any other district.
As we would for any other.
The same regulatory
Right.
to that you've all said, which is the same regulatory authority that you would have under any other school district.
Correct.
It's not exceptional or.
No, the only difference.
You know, like, I don't know what other word to use, but like
Well, then-
beyond the.
So let me clarify this. We know the ins and outs of Bob. We don't know the ins and outs of the other district.
Right, no.
So we will have a lot more clarity of when we need to bring things to this table. and-
Because you'll have the information. Because you'll have that information, is that what you're?
Well, because we built it. If it starts falling apart, we will have that information.
I think the question still is, and I'm
Councilmember Callahan.
believing you.
Maybe I can bring some
Thank
clarity.
you.
Section 3 that you're talking about,
Yes.
turnaround end date is a defined term.
Yeah.
And it's this June 30th, not the following.
Right. So that is, because that matters, as you know, there's legislation that has changed in the past year about taking over a district. And it is now limited to schools within a district. So one of the things that I think folks are trying to understand is, as of June 30th, this district is out of state control.
Assuming you take positive action.
Well, no, I get that, obviously, assuming the actions that we take tonight, but it has implications. I do believe that you maintain the regulatory responsibility as you do with other districts. And again, that's very well put. You know a lot about Providence, you built it, as you said. So you might not know that about other districts. It allows you to, raise a red flag when there's an issue. But that's why I just needed that clarity on the rescinding, because as Mary said, it's here, and that was my red flag. Yes. So I'm curious, you mentioned the negotiations. This is just making me think about what's currently going on in the whole world order. Is this a back and forth? In other words, we're taking action this evening. Is this then have anything to do with their acceptance of these terms? Or this is just, we've made our
No,
decision?
we've made our decision.
Thank you.
There is no back and forth. Joeva?
Oh, I don't know if it's a question so much as a statement. I understand what's happening here. I'm not at ease with what's going on. I was concerned about the whole question of taking the schools back, taking control. There's still a year to go under the original takeoff. What was the real motivation? It's not the parents. It's not the teachers. Parents and teachers are worried about what will happen once we step away. They fear going back to the same old practices that for 30 years kept Providence kids at the bottom of the educational barrel. What was the motivation? What if the parents aren't pushing this and the teachers in the classroom aren't saying, we want to go back? Why are elected officials so concerned? Did it have anything to do with November 27th? I don't know. It's 26, the election.
Yeah.
November 26th. Are the people who are, and I'm speaking clearly of the mayor and lately the governor, are they listening to parents who aren't comfortable with this happening right now? I'm uneasy about it. And from my experience, anytime a decision was made based on political influence and not educational value, it has not worked out well. I fear, I see everything here in front of me that, sort of guarantees that things will be done as they should be done. But in my experience, that has not been the case. And I'm just not comfortable with the whole process, the whole initiative of how this came about. I have not seen anything from the people who are really pushing this take back, any plan. Plans are coming from here. I haven't heard any commitment to continue the practices that has brought the Providence school system to where it is now as compared to where it was before the takeover. I'm not hearing that. I'm just hearing, we want the schools back. And I did hear from some officials, it was on TV, it happened too soon. Oh, we're not ready. Well, you asked for it. Why aren't you ready? I'm not comfortable.
I'll say that this is a big step. It's a big step to take the district over long before life. And it's a big step to give it back. At some point it's going to happens to be now. I am very encouraged with the specificity that has been provided in terms of what is needed on behalf of the city and on the school board. And the pledge of support that the administration has received, because their commitment is it's clear, and it's been very clear for a long time that they are for the students and for the success of the students. The superintendent and the administration. And I feel like the concern that I have that I will share with you is that readiness of the city is the questionable piece, but they clearly have what's been done, what is yet to be done. At some point, the city and the school district has to feel the full weight of this responsibility. That's what it is. It's a responsibility to this community, I think students and students. We've seen over the course of years, those of us who have been in and around Providence schools for so long have seen responsibility was not fully in place. And now, through a lot of efforts, that progress has been made. And though we're all concerned about continued progress, we would be concerned about continued progress a year from today, right? Yes. But it's time for the full weight of the authority and the responsibility to be felt by those who have asked for it and that have done some work to be prepared. There's yet more to do. I'm encouraged that RIDE has the ability to go back to their traditional role of oversight and to dive more deeply into their oversight responsibilities rather than trying to run a school district and do the oversight. So I'm encouraged for the staff here to be able to do that and focus on kids the way that they need to as well. But it is time now that decisions have been made and there is a roadmap for success. We all have to keep our eyes on it. This body still has the responsibility to make sure that those students in Providence have what they need to be successful. Take that responsibility very seriously. It's now, we just now need to shift to how we do that, where and why. And I also am very pleased that the commissioner and the staff here at RIDE have memorialized all of the work that has been done to date. That's incredibly important that it be captured and that it be written in stone and saved where we were, so that we can see the progress, or we can, if we haven't had progress, and then we can pivot and know what to do. But our eyes will be gone, and it's incredibly important for these students that to be successful. And it's time. It's time.
We have outlined here what needs to be done. What authority do we have if it's not done? What happens?
Well, I think that there's a lot of things. Colleen talked about the new legislation that we can't take over district, but this may be different and we may have to get it legally because this was enacted before that legislation came out. And I will tell you that there is no, you disagree?
No, no, don't. I'm not sure I know the answer to it, but
So I think that it's really important because there has been legislation. I think everybody needs to be clear. There's been legislation about not taking over districts. You see the progress. I think we have to question that legislation. Why and who put it forward and why?
Legislation can be changed.
Legislation can most certainly be changed. And with all the progress in Providence, I think that that's something that needs to be looked at moving forward. Because taking a school does not make a change. Being able to change a system, usually when districts are failing, they're failing across the board. It's not one thing. You can't just tackle it in one school.
Yeah. I need to make a point, to reiterate the point that's been made regarding the memorializing. You taking the time to actually memorialize everything that you've done. I think we need to publicize that, and we need to make sure that it's well known and that it's somewhere where people can go back and say, see, this is where this was. And now look what happened. Or this is where it was. This is blueprint. This is where we need to keep moving from. I feel bad that the work is never done. I feel bad that the work is never completely done. But I do know that this that works here. You already know you're awesome. Superintendent. This group does not rest. And I feel somewhat good about you being able to step back and look at the rest of the state and say, this has worked in Providence. We need to get you like, imagine Providence being spoken of that way because of you, right? Because of you, they're going to say, we need to get you like Providence. We need to show you what happened in Providence. And I think that there are people, as you know, there are districts, there are specific schools now that at all of this talent will be as passionate about that work as they were about the work that they've done, and that they are about the work that they do in Providence. But I don't know the answer, Joe Eva, of the whys, but I do know, as you know, because I'm old too, that we all put in the time, and when we leave, things change. And that's just the way it goes. And we have to hope that people around this room that works here and leaders like this lady are still able to carry the law. And that's what it's about. So I applaud the law. I applaud your team, although I always leave here very worried that I know I look tired, but I really don't do anything all day. You sometimes, no.
It's not true.
But I think for you, Drew, a lot of it's passion too. He wants to get that work done. And I just really, I think the work that's been done in Providence is absolutely phenomenal. It's just
fantastic.
And it's never happened before. And that in itself
It's not
should
done
run.
yet.
It's never
It's
done.
not done.
It's
Never done to, I think that was my.
And that's what I worry about. Is it going to get done?
That was gonna be my question to the commissioner. Do you think they're ready to get all that done?
Well, the mayor has looked me in my eyes and said, we're ready, Commissioner. So did the board president. Saying it, they sat in the school, they say that they are ready, we can only take them on their word. That's all I can do right.
They are the leaders of Providence, and
They're elected officials, they got elected to do this job, they need to do it.
we have to have faith in that team. They really realize that now they're ready.
If not, then because
Community positive effect.
do what they have to do.
Any other questions? Is that it? We ready to move on to action items? Next on the agenda, we have action items. Accessory school construction approval, East Exeter West Greenwich Regional Schools. Recommendation of the Council on Elementary and Secondary Education approving the necessity of school construction projects for Exeter West Greenwich Regional Schools. Totaling $20,913,500 pursuant to 16741.1 as follows. Please note that when the applicable reimbursement share ratios are applied to the estimate total project cost, the state share is expected to $12,757,286 as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes. Excel Academy. Recommendation that the Council on Elementary and Secondary Education approve the necessity of school construction projects for Excel Academy, Rhode Island, totaling $23,585,352 pursuant to 16741.1 as follows. Please note that when the applicable reimbursement share ratios are applied to the estimated total project cost, the state share is expected to be $7,075,606 as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? Any abstentions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes. Boston Public Schools. Recommendation that the Council on Elementary and Secondary Education approve the necessity of school construction projects. Portsmouth Public Schools totaling $40,407,000 and $43 pursuant to 167411 as follows. Please note that when the applicable reimbursement share ratios are applied to the estimated total project cost, the state share is expected to be $14,142,465 as presented. Do I have a motion? Second. Any discussion? All those, and I didn't get any abstentions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes. Our next action item on the agenda is the Commissioner's recommendation on the turnaround action of the Providence Public School District pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 16.7.1-51 and the regulation governing intervention and supporting for failing schools 200 RICR 200506. Recommendation that consistent with the report and proposed order of Commissioner Angelica Infante Green made pursuant to the regulations governing the intervention and supporting for failing schools 200 RICR 20056, the Council of Elementary and Secondary Education orders that effective July 1st, 2026, the power delegated to the Commissioner by the Council on July 23rd, 2019, with respect to the operation of the Providence Public School District pursuant to the Paul W. Crowley, Rhode Island Student Investment Initiative, Rhode Island General Law 1671-5, be withdrawn. That the Commissioner's October 15, 2019 decision established control over the Providence Public School District and reconstituting Providence Public Schools, as well as the Commissioner's October 15, 2019 order of control and reconstitution expire, and the intervention and support provided to the Providence Public School District under the Crowley Act be concluded, and local control of the district to be returned to the Providence School Board and other applicable municipal entities pursuant to state law. Chrissy, could I have a roll call?
Mary Barter,
Yes.
Colleen Callahan.
Yes.
Did we get a motion?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Chrissy, you just do what I say. Don't do that. Do I have a motion? Second, any discussion? Any abstentions? Roll call.
Mary Barter, Colleen Callahan.
Yes.
Patricia DeSenza.
Yes.
Mariva Gaines. Michael Gray,
Yes.
Marta Martinez.
Yes.
Motion passes. We have concluded the business of tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion passes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.